Rebirth in India as a Brahmin. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Competition. Shakru asked in confusion, "Why are you on this cover?" "You don't know. Taking this kind of photos is very tiring. I did it to help my friends this time. I had no choice but to take it. Otherwise, I'd be fired. I won't even shoot this thing. I have no choice this time. There is an Iranian who is challenging me, so I have to find a large and influential magazine, preferably an American magazine, to publish a photo to counter him and let him. He knows who the best playboy in the world is." Benan explained. After hearing this explanation, Shakru felt quite speechless. "Your reason is too domineering. What is there to defend the title of the world's #1 playboy?" But then I thought about it. Everyone has their own ambitions. Maybe in Benan's opinion, this kind of life is the happiest and what he wants most, so he can't say anything. However, Shakru was still very curious and asked, "No way, Benan. I think you have achieved the ultimate in this aspect. Who else dares to challenge you in this aspect?" This is what Shakru said. It was absolutely the truth. He felt that a person like Benan might not be able to appear for hundreds of years. Now that a rival has appeared, this is really a strange thing. Didn't I post a photo of me holding 2 beautiful dogs some time ago? Now there is an Iranian living in the United States, called Tutuni, who posted a photo of me holding 3 beautiful dogs on an Australian media. A photo of a beautiful dog, and commanding them to crawl to his private jet, and also named me, and said that I regard my wife as a beautiful dog. It's disrespectful to her. What he did was the best. Hey, what does the matter between our husband and wife have to do with him? What is this? There are at least 13 in my villa now, so I have to compete with him to defend my honor and status," Benan said angrily. After Benan said this, Shakru remembered that he seemed to have seen such a photo in the past 2 days. Because the news was so exciting, many media were hyping it up, but he didn't think about it at the time, paying too much attention to this matter. Now that I think about it, it is indeed unbearable for a person with great ambitions like Benan. So he took advantage of the situation and asked, "Then what photos do you want to post on the internet to counterattack? He has a helicopter, and so do I. If he looks for 3 beautiful dogs, I will look for 5 beautiful dogs. Anyway, we must not let this guy compete with us on this matter," Benan said loudly. Shakru's forehead ached when he heard this. If he told the old winter that he hoped to have such a cover photo published in the internet, the old lady would probably pick up a cane and beat herself on the spot. How could a feminist like her be possible accepting this kind of photo that insulted women? He began to persuade Benan, "You don't have to think about publishing this kind of photo online. The editor-in-chief Sir Winter is a feminist. The famous Devil Wears Prada. Let's not bring trouble to ourselves." Then he changed the topic and said, "But don't worry, I can help you contact another magazine. I believe they will be very interested in this matter." "Oh, which magazine? Is it famous?" Benan asked. "Big, absolutely big. When it comes to gossip, he is definitely the most authoritative, and his status can be compared to the Sun in the UK, and this is American Weekly." Shakru replied very confidently, "Oh, American Weekly, I know this. He is indeed very famous. Nacheng, please help me contact him. Then I will buy 1,000 copies and drop them all on the doorstep of that Tutuni family." Benan hated it. Said hatefully. At this time, Shakru suddenly became playful and said with great interest, "Benan, the counterattack photo you mentioned is too thin and the counterattack force is too weak. So, just wait for me. I'll do the styling for you myself." "Are you doing styling for me?" Benan asked in surprise. Shakru said with some displeasure, "What's wrong? Can't you believe it? After all, I've just been photographed for a magazine cover, and I'm enjoying it. Don't you still believe in my ability? If you can't believe it, I won't go. Believe, I'm not so happy. But, just wait, I'll fly there on tomorrow's flight. You prepare some more beauties, and then we'll take a group of photos." Shakru, who has become more interested in playing pranks, said excitedly. Bright sunshine, white sandy beaches, romantic palm groves, and blue waters. I believe that in such an environment, every tourist who comes to the Gold Coast for vacation can't help but take a few photos as a souvenir. However, the shooting at the chocolate factory near the Gold Coast is not what we understand in the traditional sense. Much the same point I saw a tall, muscular man with a beard standing high on the balcony on the second floor. There were also 3 hot beauties standing next to him, wearing only bikinis. But this is not the point. The point is it was this strong man holding 3 long ropes in his hand. There is a large iron ring tied to the end of each rope, and 4 black thin ropes are tied to the iron ring downwards. Each thin rope is connected to a black collar, and each collar is worn at the moment on the neck of a hot beauty wearing only a bikini point at this time. Only one person shouted loudly, "Everyone, get ready, we are about to start shooting." The person who shouted loudly was none other than Shakru, who was full of spoof intentions. He was seen holding the camera and slowly looking for angles until he expanded the palace-like buildings and swimming pools of the chocolate factory of Benin. Of course, more importantly, Benin, who was holding a long rope and was very proud, and the 12 beautiful dogs kneeling in a row in front of the swimming pool with their limbs on the ground. After the sound of click and click, Shakru waved his hand and shouted loudly, "Beautiful ladies, you've worked hard. Let's take a break and prepare for the second set of scenes." Then he ran over and handed the camera to Benin. Benin took it and took a look. He was immediately excited and patted Shakru's shoulder and said happily, "Too awesome. So handsome. Shakru, I didn't expect you to have this talent. This photo will definitely crush that guy Tutuni. He only has 3 women, and I'm holding 12 at once this time. Let's see how he can compare with me." To be continued. Chapter 277. Right, that's why I said that the counterattack must be strong and creative, otherwise the photo you took before will not have any shocking effect, even if it is sent out. Shakru said proudly. In fact, the reason why Shakru is so active and enthusiastic about following Benin this time is that helping his friends is only a small part of the reason. The bigger reason is that it was the same as the last time he went to Mexico to attend a prison party. Because of this incident, the incident gave him long lost excitement. Shakru is no longer the same as he was in his previous life, and there are fewer and fewer things that can stimulate him. For example, the money he fought for in his previous life is just a number to him now. It doesn't matter if it's more or less. The beauty you looked up to in your previous life does not affect your life. Many of them are now available at your fingertips, and you don't even need to look for them yourself as they will be delivered to your doorstep. For example, Miranda Kerr, who just acquired her, once hoped that she could lead a group of subordinates in a majestic manner, but now she finds that her subordinates can not only help you. Showing off authority can also cause you trouble. Therefore, he did not want to miss an experience like this that could make him feel novel and exciting. Just when Shakru was thinking about it, Benin asked, "By the way, Shakru, what scene should we take in the next photo?" Shakru thought for a moment and then replied, "Just shoot the scene where we met and played chess for the first time. I think your beautiful chessboard is quite creative." The reason why Shakru said this is that I really think that the beauty chessboard is a very good idea. Secondly, it is also to save Benin's face. If all the scenes are designed by himself, then he, the master, will be disgraced. Sure enough, after hearing what Shakru said, Benin said proudly, "That's right. Let me tell you, Shakru, no one who has played chess with me has not been surprised by this idea. Come on, you don't need to design this scene. Just be your actor and I will arrange it myself." Soon Benin found 4 beauties, arranged their positions, and put the chessboard away, and then said apologetically to Shakru, "Hey, the only regret now is that I was with you last time. Mariah is not here, otherwise it would be perfect." He was still very impressed by the Venezuelan beauty Shakru who accompanied him for a good night last time, so he asked, "Yes, I just remembered it when you told me. Where did Mariah go?" "She and Claudia came here for vacation, so they left after playing here for half a month. My place is a chocolate factory with flowing beauties, so today you can taste fresh beauties again. Come on." With that said, Benin waved for another red-haired beauty to accompany Shakru point. After taking the picture of the perfect female chessboard, Shakru began to arrange the scene for the last photo. This time, Benan was lying on the ground with his upper body and squeezed a bunch of cream on his chest and then knelt on both sides of his body for a while. The beauties in the circle. Everyone's hands are covered with cream, some are sucking their fingers, and some are placing their fingers on Benan's chest and abdomen. In short, it is to show a picture of beauties eating Benan. Farming scene point. After taking these 3 extravagant photos, Shakru said goodbye to Benan and flew back to New York, where he went to US Weekly in person to discuss the cover photo points. Due to his previous contact with Immersed Murthy, Shakru easily met Matthews, the head of the advertising department of US Weekly. After the two chatted for a while, Matthews asked, "Pandy Mr. 10, I heard from Mr. Murthy, you want to place an advertisement in our weekly magazine. You can say that, but the advertising position I want is rather special." Shakru pondered for a moment and then said. Matthews asked curiously, "Oh, what's so special about it?" "I want the cover of your weekly magazine as an advertising space," Shakru said solemnly. Matthews waved his hand and said, "Mr. Pandit, you are just kidding. We at US Weekly never sell covers as advertising space, so we are sorry to disappoint you, Mr. Matthews. You must have heard about the fight between the two rich men Tutuni and Benan during this period, right?" Shakru suddenly changed the subject and asked. Although he didn't understand why Shakru asked this, Matthews still nodded and replied, "I know, this is a topic that our weekly is most interested in, so even if I'm not responsible for the page content, I can still be considered relatively knowledgeable. That's good if you understand. Now please take a look at these 3 photos." With that, Shakru handed Matthews the photos he took in Australia. Matthews took the photos without knowing why at first, but when he took a closer look, he immediately exclaimed, "Mr. Pandit, where did you get these 3 photos?" In fact, it's no wonder Matthews to be so excited. He had already said before that this kind of gossip about rich people fighting against each other with no limits was the most interesting topic in their weekly, and these 3 photos clearly star as Benan's counterattack against the 3 beautiful dog photos that Tutuni had provoked him. It is conceivable that, as long as these 3 photos were published in their American weekly, and then accompanied by sufficiently inflammatory and provocative text, the sales volume of this issue will definitely make the boss laugh out of his dreams, which is why he is so eager to ask about the source of Shakru's photos. Seeing Matthews like this, Shakru had a clue in his heart, so he said slowly, "Actually, these 3 photos were taken by me. And I have more than these 3 photos. Let me put it this way, last time Mr. Tutuni went to the Australian media to publish photos to provoke Mr. Benan, so Mr. Benan wanted to publish counter photos in the American media. Because I have a good relationship with Murthy, I found your US weekly. I think this set of photos should be enough for your cover standard, right?" "Enough, absolutely enough. To be honest, Mr. Pandit, you really made the right choice to choose our US weekly. Our weekly has the strongest influence in this regard among all the media in the United States. We will definitely be able to meet Mr. Benan's requirements and let every American know about this counterattack." Matthews promised repeatedly. Facts have proved that Matthews was not exaggerating. Under the strong hype of US Weekly, Benan's counter photos were not only the 3 photos taken by Shakru, but also some of the photos of Benan showing off his wealth when he had nothing to do before, which caused a strong response. But Tutuni's counter photos also followed. To be continued. Chapter 278 Tanks. This time Tutuni's counterattack still only had 1 photo, but it was definitely no less sharp than Benan's group of photos. In the photo, Tutuni was wearing a bullet belt and holding a submachine gun, and was followed by several bikini beauties. They were all holding pistols, sniper rifles, submachine guns and other firearms in various attractive poses. Then there was an extremely arrogant sentence underneath the photo: "A real man must not only have a woman, but also a gun." As soon as this photo came out, it immediately raised the already very popular fight for wealth between the two to a new level. The media reported crazily, like it was the new year, and Benan called Shakru to complain. "Shakru, what should we do this time? This Tutuni is too ignorant. After all, I can't play with women, but I started playing with guns. I know that guns are banned in Australia, and you still use this to provoke me. Isn't this embarrassing? I do have a gun license, but I have such a short time. It's impossible to get one for every girl. In fact, guns were not allowed in Australia before, but in 1996, a murderer with a semi-automatic rifle killed 35 people. Australia has since enacted laws restricting private ownership of firearms, eventually passing legislation banning nearly all types of semi-automatic weapons. After this, only personnel with special needs, such as military police or hunters, can hold guns with a license. Other ordinary residents are not allowed to hold guns. Shakru thought about it for a long time, and then said, Beanon, don't worry, I can help you find a solution on this matter, but you have to come to the United States in person. But, you can't even go to the United States. If you're secretly playing with a gun, it's fine. But we want to be on the cover of a magazine. Doesn't that mean shouting in front of the police and forcing them to deal with you? Beanon said distressedly, people are playing with guns, and we are also playing with guns. That seems so low. Since we want to fight back, we must use something more advanced and shocking. Shakru retorted. Beanon asked in a daze, then, what are you going to give me? Something more advanced and shocking? How about the tank? Is it shocking enough? Shakru replied proudly, what the hell? A tank? Oh my god, Shakru, you can actually get a tank? I really can't believe it. It turns out you are still in the arms business in private. Beanon couldn't help but exclaimed. Shakru quickly defended. Who told you that I was in the arms business then? You just said you wanted to get me a tank? Beanon muttered. The tanks I'm talking about are fake. When Michael Jackson came to India for a concert last year, I got to know his special effects team. These guys are amazing. Whether they are airplanes or tanks, they all look like real ones. Yes, let's spend more money with them to get a model of the tank and take some photos. It's so majestic and shocking. Shakru explained slowly. Beanon praised. Good idea, good idea. Anyway, even if we get a real tank, we have to say it is fake to the outside world. In that case, it is better to just get a fake tank. Shakru, you have really wide connections. That's right, I have friends all over the world. Okay, come to New York quickly, and I'll contact the special effects team right away. Since they had collaborated on Michael Jackson's concert before, and they had also produced tank props at the concert before, there was no need to redesign them, so the special effects team readily agreed to Shakru's order, and it took only 2 days to complete the tank, even faster than Beanon arrived in New York. When Beanon saw this tank, he exclaimed, oh my god, if you only look at the appearance, and don't touch it with your own hands. Who would dare to believe that this is a fake tank? This technology is really awesome. After a while, just putting on some cool poses under the tank will definitely scare that toony guy to death. However, Shakru ignored the excited Beanon and instead walked to Candela, the head of the special effects team, and asked, Mr. Candela, I would like to ask, is it okay if a person stands on this model? Where do you want to stand? How many people are standing? What is the approximate weight? Candela asked without answering. Shakru pointed at Beanon, then pointed at the base of the tank's barrel and said, I hope it would be best for Mr. Beanon to sit astride the barrel, and then there would be 2 beauties standing on the left and right sides. Look at this. Is it easy to operate? Candela studied it with several of his men for a while, and then said, no problem, we can just reinforce it inside, but we must not move around on it, otherwise it will be difficult to tell. After all, this is not a real thing. Beanon asked in confusion. Shakru, why do you want me to stand on the barrel of the gun? Shakru explained angrily, you idiot, you look so domineering like this. Since Tatooine added, men must have guns, then we can definitely retaliate. Your gun is too small, mine is gun. Before Beanon could say anything, Candela on the side stopped laughing and interjected, Mr. Pandit, it's a pity that you don't want to be a designer. Although this matter is ridiculous, your idea is really great. That's great. How about adding a squashed BMW under the tank to increase the effect? So cool. Beanon exclaimed, oh my god. I can't wait to see this photo appear now. Mr. Candela, please don't save me any money. Let's no matter how exaggerated it is, as expected by several people. Once the photo of the tank-shaped vehicle of Brahmin was released, it immediately shocked everyone. Although he admitted that the tank was fake, not many people believed it. Most people thought that he said so because he was afraid of getting into trouble. At the same time, once this photo was released, Tutuni could no longer challenge Brahmin in terms of weapons. After all, if he wanted to win, he could only get an armed helicopter or a cruiser, but this was not something that could be obtained just by having money, so he started to think about other things, but this time he messed up. P.S. In reality, the Iranian businessman Tutuni did compete with Travis Brahmin in showing off his wealth, but it was not so complicated, and this tank photo and throwing a beautiful woman into the swimming pool had nothing to do with them. It was done by an American poker champion named Dan. In fact, this guy played more cruelly than Brahmin and Tutuni combined, but because the era did not match, so he could only transfer his deeds. Chapter 279 We made. The mess here is really a mess, because in the photos released this time, Tutuni threw a naked blonde from the building of the villa. This time, Tutuni rarely posted only one photo, but used a group of photos to show the whole process. From the beginning, when he and the blonde beauty had sex, then hugged her to the edge of the roof, and finally threw her into the swimming pool to everyone's surprise. If the public was just watching the competition between Tutuni and Brahmin, then Tutuni's excessive behavior this time really caused trouble for himself. Not to mention those feminists, even ordinary people think that he was too disrespectful to people and women. Then someone recognized that the beauty thrown into the swimming pool in the photo was the famous nude model Griffith. So a reporter found her and planned to interview her, but was surprised to find that her foot bone was broken. According to her, she was not prepared at all at the time, just thought she was going to be intimate with Tutuni on the roof, but she didn't expect that the other party would throw her into the swimming pool. The most terrifying thing is that at the moment of falling into the swimming pool, his right foot hit the edge of the swimming pool, resulting in a fracture of his right foot. Although Tutuni paid him a sum of money, he was still very angry about this behavior. Originally, Shakru and Brahmin were still worrying about how to fight back against Tutuni's provocation, but when Shakru saw the comments of the media, he suddenly reacted and said to Brahmin, this time it's simple. We don't need to fight back at all. Just accuse Tutuni directly. Brahmin asked worriedly, will this work? If I do this, everyone will think I'm afraid of him. Shakru shook his head and replied, don't worry, it won't happen. Tutuni has aroused public anger this time, so not only can you never continue to compete with him, but you must also draw a clear line with him and make it clear that you are not respectful to him. The contempt and anger of the media for the behavior of respecting women. Otherwise, it is easy for the media to scold you too. Brahmin nodded and said, well, okay, I will do as you say. Brahmin then issued a statement in US Weekly. Originally, I regarded Mr. Tutuni as a friend, so we had the recent game, but what I never expected was that Tutuni turned out to be such a guy who disrespected women. I'm ashamed to associate with such a person. With Brahmin's public statement, or adding insult to injury, the media's attention was all shifted to Tutuni, and this ridiculous competition for wealth finally came to an end point. In the next nearly 3 years, Shakru put most of his energy on integrating Coventry. Through the operation of these 2 years, Coventry not only successfully occupied the position of a mid-level team in the Premier League, but also earned £10 million by selling Viduka. In fact, other players in the team, such as Atita and Shimbonda, were also valued by others, but Shakru felt that the price was too low and did not let go of them. Seeing that the team had stabilized, Shakru returned to New Delhi to rest for a while, and then began to think about new ways to make money. After some thinking, Shakru decided to invest in a new direction. In March 2001, Park Wen-hyo, the representative director, equivalent to the legal representative or chairman of a Chinese company, of South Korea's ADCO Limited, had just arrived at the company, and his assistant came forward to report, boss, there is a Shakru from India, Mr. Pandit. Who wants to see you? Indian. It seems that we have never had trade relations with India. Park Wen-heo asked with a frown. The assistant nodded and said, indeed, no, but Mr. Pandit said he wanted to talk to us about overseas market cooperation for the Legend of R2. Park Wen-heo couldn't help laughing and said, overseas market cooperation? Oh my god, how many Indians can play online games? This joke is so funny. The assistant also laughed and said, that's right. There are too few rich people in India. Most of them don't even know how to go online, let alone play online games. Then he changed the subject and advised, but boss, we don't care whether he makes money or not. Anyway, the Indian market is not in our plan. It's always a good thing to make more money. Park Wen-heo nodded and said, well, you make sense. Since there is money to be made, why push it out? Okay, go and call that Indian guy in. After a while, Shakru walked into the office under the guidance of the assistant, and Park Wen-heo changed his contempt and greeted him warmly. Mr. Pandit, welcome to AT, please take a seat. The two exchanged pleasantries for a while, and Park Wen-heo got to the point first and asked, Mr. Pandit, I heard that you want to buy the Indian overseas agency rights of the Legend of R2. Shakru shook his head and replied, the Indian online game market is still in its early stages and does not have the foundation for large-scale promotion for the time being, so I don't want to buy the Indian agency rights. Then he changed the subject and said, I want to buy the overseas agency rights for the Chinese market. After listening to Shakru's explanation, Park Wen-heo looked up and glared at the assistant standing aside, thinking that this was not a false report of military intelligence, but the assistant standing aside felt aggrieved. This Indian said he wanted to buy overseas agency rights, but he didn't say which country he wanted to buy from, so I naturally thought he wanted to buy his own countries, although he was a little surprised that Shakru did not buy the Indian agency rights. He was also not optimistic about China, so he asked curiously, but Mr. Pandit, I think China's online game market is not much better than India, and it is definitely not as convenient for you, an Indian, to develop in China as it is in India, right? China has developed very rapidly in recent years, and the foundation of the online game market has been formed. Now many online games such as Stone Age, Magic Baby, Red Moon, King of Kings, and Jin Yang's Heroes have developed to a certain extent in China, so I think we can try it in the Chinese market. As for the other question, I have built 2 pharmaceutical factories in China, and am very familiar with the situation in China. Moreover, the Chinese government's current policies for foreign investors are very favorable, so I don't think there will be any obstacles. Shakru explained slowly. Chapter 280 Legend. Wen-heo just said casually, it's none of my business whether you can make money in China. Anyway, as long as I can get the agency fee, he said. Since Mr. Pandit, you are confident, then okay, then I think we can discuss the specific matters of cooperation. Assistant Jin, go and get a copy of our agency contract from Mr. Pandit. Not long after, Assistant Jin brought an agency contract to Shakru. Shakru briefly looked through it, and then said seriously, I have 2 opinions on the agency issue that I would like to discuss with you one time. Wen-heo made a gesture and said, okay, Mr. Pandit, please tell me. Shakru raised a finger and said, the first is the issue of the agency period. I think 3 years is too short. I want to change it to 10 years. The second point is the agency fee. I think it is too high. If it's half, I think it's more reasonable. After listening to Shakru's words, Wen-heo shook his head repeatedly and said, Mr. Pandit, this is absolutely impossible. 3-year agency rights are a common practice in the industry. If I break the rules rashly, my peers will blame me. In addition, the agency fee is not high, at least it is much lower than the Magic Baby and Stone Age you just mentioned, and we will be responsible for all problems and product upgrades that occur during operation and maintenance, so it is definitely worth the money. What if I don't need your company to perform scheduled maintenance? Then can the price be reduced? Shakru said this not to bargain, mainly because he looked down on the work efficiency of the Korean company. In my memory, all the games introduced in South Korea were very slow to correct bugs when they appeared, so instead of counting on them, I might as well count on myself. Anyway, I'm still the major shareholder of Infosys, so it would be better to find a few experts in this field. Not a problem. Hearing what Shakru said, Pu Wenhao thought for a moment, and then replied, if daily maintenance is not required, then the price can indeed be lowered, but half the share is really too exaggerated. You know what we are doing. The legendary fan art 2 has achieved very good results both in Korea and in Europe. Shakru heard the words, and smiled and said, oh, really? Mr. Park, I have also done some research on the performance of your company's game, and the situation does not seem to be as good as you said. So I simply say, to be honest, one of the main reasons why I chose your company's Legend of Art 2 is that I think it has an advantage in terms of price. Otherwise, I can buy other products with better picture quality and richer plot content game. Although these words are quite subtle, they are actually quite harsh. To put it bluntly, what Shakru means is that the reason why I buy your products is because I think your products are of inferior quality. The price is cheap. If you don't sell it, I will buy other people's products with good quality. Although these words made Pu Wenhao very angry, he had to admit in his heart that the other party was telling the truth. Although the Legend of Fan Art 2 has placed great hopes on it, in fact the performance of this game is not good. It is only a third-rate game in China, and it has not been promoted in Europe. Nightclub tickets are given for free. A lot. European and American game magazines have a tradition of including nightclub tickets to promote games. The answer to why Shakru values this game so much is very simple, because the name of the legendary R2 in China is Legend. Anyone in China who has a little knowledge of online games will know the glory of this online game. It can even be said that now, and in the foreseeable future, no other online game will be able to reach his height. Even the world famous World of Warcraft and the nationally popular LoL cannot compete with Legend in terms of profitability. Compared to Point, it was precisely because of the unexpected popularity of Legend in China that after the contract expired, ad opened its mouth to Chandelion. In order to ensure Legend, Chenchai and Kyo finally had to spend a lot of money to purchase a large amount of ads equity. In order to prevent this kind of trouble from happening again, Shakru planned to get it right in one step and win the agency rights for 10 years, so as to avoid future troubles. After half a month of bargaining, Ad finally sold the 10-year agency rights in China to Shakru's Legend Entertainment Co. Limited at a 20% discount on the agency fee. A large part of the reason why it happened so quickly was that Park Wenhao discovered that Shakru was also in contact with other online game companies while discussing with Ad. When he was afraid that this rare big customer would be snatched away by others, he had no choice but to agree. After securing the agency rights, Shakru moved to Immersed and asked Murthy to help hire a professional online game maintenance team. Although Japan and South Korea can be regarded as big countries in online games, it is the United States that represents the highest level of strength in the online game industry. At least Blizzard's #1 position has not been shaken. With Murthy's connections and the temptation of Shakru's high salary, a maintenance team was quickly hired. Shakru arranged for them to start reviewing bugs within Legend, and then he went to China to buy bandwidth from China Telecom. In the previous life, Chenchai and Kyo of Shanda had limited funds, so he adopted a method of operation that was nothing but a free-for-all. First, he took the contract with Ad and found Inspirandel, told them that he wanted to operate Korean online games, and applied for a 2-month trial of the machine. The other party saw that it was a formal international contract, so they agreed to borrow the server. Then he took the server contract and found China Telecom, using the same reason, to apply for a trial. In the end, China Telecom also gave Shanda the right to free bandwidth for a 2-month test period. Finally, Chenchai and Kyo took the 3-party contract between the Korean side, the server manufacturer, and China Telecom, and gained the trust of Shanghai Ubisoft, the leading single-player game distributor in China, to help him sell Game Point cards. Thus, Chenchai and Kyo completed the most classic commercial game out of nothing in the history of China's internet and even in the history of Chinese business. Of course, he played this way because he had no money, and Shakru had no shortage of money, so he naturally didn't have to do it like him, and doing so could be said to have endless troubles, causing a lot of trouble for the later development of Shanda Legend. So Shakru planned to get rid of all these troubles once and for all this time. Chapter 281, Beautiful Spokesperson. On the server, Shakru directly purchased 10 servers with a wave of his hand. Although he was very dissatisfied with this kind of server with an upper limit of only a few thousand people and less than 10,000 people, there was no way. The technical level of this era was like this. Fortunately, these 10 servers are enough to meet the needs of the public beta, and we will slowly increase them depending on the situation in the future. Shanda initially used Ubisoft as a point card channel. However, this path proved unsuccessful because Ubisoft did not pay enough attention to Shanda. As a result, when Legend just started charging point cards, it was hard to get one. Seriously, this delayed the initial development of Legend. Fortunately, in the later period, Shanda switched to internet cafes as a channel for expansion, which completely solved the problem point naturally. Shakru would not repeat the same mistakes, so he sent his team to expand in internet cafes in major cities. There are two general methods. One is the installed capacity. As long as the Legend client is installed in the internet cafe, a machine will receive an installation fee of 5 yuan. The second is the recharge system. Internet cafes that have installed a point card recharge system can enjoy a 30% discount on pre-ordered point cards within 2 months before charging starts. In other words, 70% of the point card income of 100 yuan can be given to Legend Company Point. The reason why Shakru puts so much effort into internet cafes is because he knows that in this era, personal computers are not so popular yet, and internet cafes are the most important place for online game promotion. After all, the target customers in internet cafes are concentrated and highly targeted. People who often go to internet cafes, as long as they are well recommended, can hardly refuse online games. There are even many people who even have computers at home and go to internet cafes to play games specifically for the gaming atmosphere. That's what I was like back then. Similarly, the recommendation of internet cafe owners and employees in this era is also an important way for many people to start playing games. After all, there are still very few game masters at this time, and everyone knows only a little about online games. Therefore, the influence of internet cafe employees is much greater than that of later generations' times. Network management has always been a very magical profession. You have to be able to not only repair computers, but also help customers download live-action movies, solve common game problems on behalf of online customer service, check college entrance examination results, and occasionally weird things. The customer asks you to help him download Q coins. If the public beta of Legend runs well in the first month, then many internet cafe owners will definitely book point cards. Although Shakru will lose part of his profits, as long as the number of people online increases, all the losses will be recovered. No matter what kind of publicity, nothing can be as tangible as real money. Driven by Shakru's millions of installation fees, the promoters of Legend Company spent almost no effort to completely promote Legend in internet cafes in major cities. It was promoted, and posters were posted everywhere, letting everyone who went to the internet cafe know that a super fun online game was about to be tested. Internet cafes are only one aspect of Shakru's promotion. The other aspect is the hard and soft advertisements in major game forums and game magazines. The reason why we did not choose to advertise on traditional media such as TV and newspapers is because online games are different from the products are different. If you like to play online games, they are generally young people, and young people read newspapers and watch TV every day. After all, they are in the minority. On the contrary, game forums and game magazines are the places they often pay attention to, and the advertisements in these places are much cheaper. So these advertisements were overwhelmingly made by Shakru. At the same time, Shakru also plans to find a beautiful woman to be the spokesperson for the game. This spokesperson does not need to be famous. Her main role is to cosplay into the characters in the game for promotion. In the past, online game posters and videos used beautiful NPCs in the game. Although they were beautiful, they were unreal. Later, in the era of web games and mobile games, beauties began to appear wearing equipment in the game and cosplayed into game images for promotion. To attract otaku players, this is also the idea of Shakru. He knows a lot of beauties, Shakru, and even has many around him, but they are not suitable for this. First of all, nationality is not good. Since it is for the Chinese market, it is natural not to use Indian beauties or Russian beauties, only Chinese beauties. but E3 Chinese lovers, Gong Li's age is not suitable for this, Yang Yuang's temperament is not suitable, and Xiao Minimum's fame is not suitable, so Shakru had to turn to Gong Li for help. Since Shakru's annual salary was very high, and the endorsement fee was 500,000 yuan a year, not to mention those small models, even the already famous international models were a little tempted. So Gong Li easily contacted Shakru. A large number of modeling agencies. The content of the test is also very simple, which is to wear a special game professional suit, hold a professional weapon, and then pose for a photo. Gong Li and Yang Yuang helped with the early review work, mainly to eliminate some applicants with inconsistent temperaments. It's not that a girl is not beautiful, but she is not suitable for wearing such clothes and doing such actions. Just like some people are very beautiful in ancient costumes, but their fashions may be a bit inferior, while some people are just the opposite. Originally, Shakru didn't want to get involved in this matter at all, but when he accidentally saw the photos of the finalists from Yang Yuang's hand, he was suddenly surprised by one of the photos. Yang Yuang was a little jealous when she saw him like this. Said, "What's wrong? Are you attracted to her? Is this girl's name Xiang Dalin?" Shakru asked in a low voice. Yang Yuang took the list of contestants and compared it, then said in surprise, "Yes, number 13 is Xiang Dalin, selected by Shanghai New Idea Model Agency and the third runner-up of the 1999 National Model Competition. How do you know her?" "I know there is such a person, but I don't know her personally. I remember she seems to be from Hong Kong. How come she is in a modeling agency in Shanghai?" Shakru asked curiously. "You remember wrongly. She is an authentic Susha native. She only came to Shanghai in 1999. When did she become a Hong Konger?" Yang Yuang explained, and then changed the subject and said, "But speaking of it, she really fits the bill. Your beauty standards, 178 centimeters tall, and those long legs are a bit unbearable for me. Hey, it seems that this time she hit your hand and can't get out. You ask me to say this. Am I that perverted?" Shakru said somewhat unhappily. "What do you think? There are so many women around me. I'm still not satisfied, and the number keeps increasing. Do you think you're horny or not? HMPH. Then I'll show you sex now. PS. Please subscribe." Chapter 282. Xiang Dalin. Bang, bang, bang. A slightly urgent knock on the door woke up Suen, who was half asleep. She packed up her clothes and got up and walked to the door. When she looked through the door mirror, she saw that it was Xiang Dalin, a model from her own company. Then he opened the door. As soon as Xiang Dalin came in, she said to her seriously, "Sister Wen, there is good news or bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" "Good news," Su Wen replied without hesitation. "The good news is that this time the legendary Spokesperson is very likely to be me," Xiang Dalin said with a solemn expression. When Su Wen heard this, she said excitedly, "Really? That's great. If you win the legendary Spokesperson this time, you will not only get a bonus of 500,000 yuan, but also get to know this Indian Shakru Pandit. If you get it done, you will be the next Miranda, Karoreshwaraya, Lei." Then he seemed to suddenly remember something and asked, "By the way, you just said there is another bad news. Don't tell me the bad news is that the good news just now is false." Xiang Dalin said angrily, "Sister Wen, am I that boring? To tell you the truth, the bad news is that the boss of Legend Company, Mr. Pandit, wants to see you this afternoon for an interview." So, when asked with some confusion, "What kind of bad news is this? Isn't the interview normal?" But this item was not included in the initial selection process. It was obviously added later. Xiang Dalin reminded, "What's wrong with the late edition? People spend so much money to find Spokespersons, so naturally they have to be more cautious. The boss should also conduct an interview." Su Wen defended, But, didn't you tell me that this Shakru Pandit is a big pervert? He asked me to go to his office alone. What if there are any excessive demands on me?" Xiang Dalin said anxiously. Su Wen nodded and said, "Yes, there are rumors in the circle that he is indeed a good womanizer, but he is the kind of boss who does what he says. Let's not talk about others, just talk about AIZ in our model circle. Aren't Ware and Miranda supported by him?" There are so many girls who want to get close to him, but they haven't had the chance yet. Why are you still worrying about this? But I want to rely on my own strength to develop, and I don't want to rely on selling my body. Before she could finish speaking, Suen interrupted her. As I said just now, how many girls want to sacrifice their bodies, but still can't find the right person, and they just let you go to his office. It's not like he's asking you to go to his room, so you don't have to think too much. In addition, the modeling industry is like this. If no one supports you behind your back, or your family has money, it will not develop at all. You've been in this industry for 2 or 3 years. Don't you still know what's going on here? What is it like to have your own makeup artist and designer? What kind of development path is it to have your own connections and resources? Have you suffered a lot in the past 2 years? Could it be that I'm destined not to develop on my own? That's not true, but it is destined to be very difficult. Okay, then I get it. But if he is that kind of pervert, I would rather not have this 500,000 than do it. After saying that, Xiang Dalin turned and left. Suen looked at her back and sighed and said, "Hey, this girl is good at everything, but she is too stubborn." In the afternoon of that day, Xiang Dalin deliberately armed herself more tightly and then came to Shakru's office. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't seem to pay much attention to her clothes. She only looked at her briefly when shaking hands, and then her eyes were almost blank. He didn't stop at himself and asked straight to the point, "Ms. Xiang, have you ever played online games?" Xiang Dalin was a little surprised by this question. She originally thought that Shakru would ask her if she had a boyfriend, so she shook her head in surprise and said, "I haven't played it before. I'm not very interested in this, because the legend that our company is about to launch is an online game, and as the spokesperson of the game, you must attend some promotional activities, so when interacting with game players, you cannot appear to know nothing about the game. So I hope that, if we can cooperate, Miss Xiang, you must spare some time for the internal and public testing of the game. I wonder if you can do this?" Shakru said with a frown. Xiang Dalin nodded and said, "I will definitely do it, but I have never had any gaming experience before, so there will definitely be a lot of basic operational problems. Can you please find someone to guide me in the early stage?" This sentence was just spoken. Xiang Dalin regretted it and secretly cursed herself. "You idiot, isn't this the same as putting yourself in others' mouths?" She even made excuses for others, but it happened that she made this request herself, and others will follow suit later. "Come here, you have no reason to refuse." Just when Xiang Dalin was thinking wildly, Shakru's voice came over. "This is no problem. I will arrange a staff member to guide you in the game. In fact, the operation of the legend is not complicated, and you don't need to if you invest too much time in killing monsters and upgrading. You just need to understand the situations and various terms that often occur in the game, and know how to deal with them when players ask." This answer could be said to be completely beyond Xiang Dalin's expectations. She never expected that this legendary pervert would give up such a good opportunity, so she blurted out on impulse, "You won't personally guide me?" Shakru pondered for a moment, then replied, "Well, I'm quite busy recently. After all, the new company and new project have just started, so I don't have much time. And I personally don't really like online games like Legend." Shakru said the truth. Even when Legend was the most popular, he didn't like it very much. At most, he would go in and play bosses with friends. He still liked 3D plot games like World of Warcraft and Xiangxia 3, but now the most suitable for the Chinese market is 2D games like Legend with simple operation and free park point. Then they talked about other things for a while, and then Shakru asked Xiang Dalin to go back and wait for news. Until she walked out of the office, Xiang Dalin still felt unreal. How could there be no explicit or implicit hints in that aspect from the beginning to the end? Was the rumor about Shakru being a big pervert wrong, or was it because her charm was not enough to arouse his interest? Chapter 283 Public Beta. In fact, Shakru is not uninterested in Xiang Dalin, but he has no habit of forcing people. As a man who has experienced many women, he can tell from Xiang Dalin's clothes today that this woman is wary of him. In this case, why bother to make himself unhappy? In his previous life, when he was a poor man, He was thinking about how to chase a girl all day long, but now he finds that this is actually unnecessary. Women worship strong men, so when you become a strong man, women will naturally pounce on you. All you need to do is pick one you like among the many women who like you. If there is no one, it means that you are not strong enough. So those stories about the domineering president falling in love with Cinderella are all made up. After a period of intense preparation, at 10 AM on May 5, 2001, Legend was officially launched. Due to the early publicity and the strong promotion of the internet cafe owner, many people in various internet cafes entered the game at the same time point. By noon, the number of online players of Legend had exceeded 30,000. The 6 servers deployed at the time of the launch had reached the load limit, so Shakru continued to deploy 3 more servers to divert the crazy influx of new players. At the same time, Shakru was thankful that he had previously ordered the technical department to increase the refresh rate of level 1 monsters such as deer and cats in the novice area by 10 times. Otherwise it would not be possible to meet the needs of so many players. The reason why it is so popular is largely due to the recommendation of the internet cafe owner. Since the consumption of players is a commission for them, they naturally hope that old customers in the internet cafe will play Legend. For players who are new to the online game industry and are tired of playing old games and want to change to new games, the recommendation of the internet cafe owner is naturally the first choice point. Linjaya is an online game fan. He started with Millennium and has experienced many games such as Red Moon, King of Kings, and Stone Age. However, he has been too busy recently to play games in the internet cafe. Today he finally has some free time, so he came to the Hangcheng internet cafe that he is most familiar with. Point. As soon as he entered the internet cafe, he was startled by the noisy sound inside. He casually pulled over a familiar network administrator and asked, "Zio Wei, what's going on today? Why are there so many people in the internet cafe?" He was not making a fuss, because there were not many people in this internet cafe usually. Occasionally, there were a few people playing StarCraft and CS to make it lively, and the others were just chatting. But today, the whole room was filled with all kinds of chopping and killing sounds and the excited or happy shouts of players. Lin Jia, what have you been busy with recently? Why haven't you come? Let me tell you, today is the day when the new game Legend is launched. This game is launched by a big boss from a foreign country. It's super fun. Hurry up and get an activation code at the bar counter. You can get a novice gift pack in the game. Network administrator Zio Wei said excitedly. Linjaya asked in confusion. Old ZHU, the owner of the internet cafe, is so powerful now that he can even get the activation code for the game. How can he do that? It was given to each internet cafe by the game company. But this gift package is not for white collar workers. As long as you use this activation code, old ZHU can get a commission for future consumption in the game. Otherwise, do you think old ZHU would help promote it so hard? Zio Wei said close to Linjaya's ear. Damn it, I said, how could old ZHU be so kind? Linjaya muttered, but even though he muttered, he still went to the bar to get an activation code. Since this activation code can get a novice gift package, why not? And old ZHU is not an outsider. When the time comes, he can get his part of the commission back from him. At most, he can help him attract a few more people to play. Point. After finding a computer and sitting down, Linjaya felt firsthand how hard Leo ZHU worked to promote Legend. Not only were posters posted on all the walls of the internet cafe, but even the computer desktops were changed to Legend backgrounds, and the Legend client icon was clearly occupying the most prominent position on the screen. Coupled with the hard work of Xiao and Mingzi, the 2 network administrators, to recommend it, it would be a miracle if there were not enough people playing Legend. Point. After entering the game, Linjaya was even more shocked. My goodness, there are too many people here. The birth point is crowded, and there is no open space. Fortunately, there are enough novice monsters, and they refresh quickly, otherwise it would be impossible to grab them. When grabbing monsters, Linjaya found that several players around him were dressed differently from others. They were not wearing the shorts of newborns. Male players wear shorts, and female players wear bikinis. Instead, they were wearing very beautiful samurai clothes. When the players next to them asked about it with envy, these guys said proudly, "This is a novice gift package. We got the activation code from the internet cafe owner." Lin Jia then remembered that, yes, he also used the activation code, so he hurried to the novice administrator to get a set. The same scene happened in many internet cafes at the same time. It was precisely because Shakru focused on the internet cafe owners in the promotion that the online rate of legend was extremely high after the public beta. After seeing the peak of 50,000 on the first day, Shakru put down his hanging heart point because he is confident that, as long as these players enter legend and adapt to the operation and game rules, most people will be inseparable. Although legend is only a third-rate game in Japan, South Korea, Europe and the United States, it is extremely popular in China. The first reason is that the operation is simple. For domestic players who have just come into contact with online games, if they start with online games such as World of Warcraft and Chorus that require extremely high operation, they will not be able to stay at all. Most people will be scared away by these complicated operations. The second point is the freedom of rules. If you don't agree, you can start fighting. No matter who you are, you can switch modes at any time to park equipment or be exploded, instead of limiting the camp like World of Warcraft, where only the Alliance and the Horde can kill. This point can just burst out the anger in the player's bones, and there will naturally be grievances and hatreds when there is fighting, which will keep the players in the game. It can be said that it is the completely free park system of legend that has been developed to the maximum extent in China. So there is legend point third. It allows players to see the benefits, the profits, and the opportunity to make money by playing games. It can be said that no other game can surpass legend. P.S. This is a spoof of Mage Legend. I think this should be the most classic one in legend. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Formal Fee Collection. The reason why many people who don't like legend like Shakru in his previous life play it crazily is because there are so many business opportunities in legend, from making money through mining at the beginning to equipment trading later. There are legendary stories of making a fortune. It may seem incredible now. You must know that there was no Teobeo or 5173 in that era. The reason why many people chose local servers to play was for the convenience of transactions. It was even convenient to the extent that you could sell a handful of rulings and shout them in an internet cafe, because everyone all I play is the Ice City server. The author also had an experience when a friend from Jilin took a train to Harbin to buy dragon patterns. This situation would be impossible to happen now, but it was definitely not an exception at the time point. In order to stimulate players in this regard, Shakru arranged for people to use loudspeakers to make announcements in the game 2 hours after the server was launched. Legend of buying the best equipment at a high price in RMB naturally does not have such a thing as a full server speaker, but Shakru is a time traveler. Lu will naturally not give up this method of making money with extremely low technical costs and high returns. I must have seen many friends in the game pretending to use the speakers of the whole server to check numbers, letting players know what kind of equipment is valuable and what kind of things can make a small fortune for themselves due to the exaggerated performance of Legend on the first day. 17,173, the largest domestic online game website, released news the next day. Legend has exceeded 50,000 online users on the first day. This is something that no one who knows anything about online games would have thought of a year ago. Data, to be precise, before the open beta of Legend, this was still a number that no one could even imagine. However, Legend Company not only did it, but also thought of it. Otherwise, there is no way to explain why they dared to open 10 servers on the first day of public testing. I have to say that Legend really wants to create a true legend. But obviously the peak of 50,000 was not Shakru's goal. After a month, Shakru felt that the players had adapted to the game, and the levels had reached around level 25, and some of the masters were close to level 30, so he started to promote the Battle for Sabak event on a large scale in forums, online game magazines and in-game. In fact, it is the most common city battle in online games. It is said that city warfare brings the greatest effect of the legendary era, and it also makes Chinese players realize the role of guilds for the first time. Although it does not exist in the legendary era, city warfare is still very exciting, like the one in the Mage Legend with a big gun. The situation of trumpet command to capture the city did happen in reality. Many guild bosses hired internet cafes to attack the sand, otherwise they would not be able to command at all point, especially after many players saw the passion of attacking the sand and the series of benefits after occupying Shabak. They were all tempted. Being the lord of the sand city means that they are the most powerful person in this server. This sense of honor is something that cannot be obtained in reality, and which man does not have a heroic dream in his heart. So the craze for forming guilds began to rise point for ordinary players. First of all, the three words Shabak appended to the name represent an identity and a sense of glory that is beyond ordinary players. We are the victors, the conquerors, because we own a city. But what about the members of the other guilds? You are nothing. Secondly, as a Shabak member, you can enjoy a 20% discount on purchasing medicines or repairing equipment compared to non-Shabak members. In addition, you also have an exclusive teleportation scroll guild return scroll. Friends who have played Legend, as we all know, you can't buy the town return scroll at all in other places. Only monsters occasionally explode, so the guild town return scroll, which can be purchased at Shabak grocery store anytime and anywhere, is a good thing. Very attractive. This also led to the emergence of game merchants who specialized in reselling return scrolls and potions, commonly known as drug dealers. Since there are many places where gold coins are needed in the early stage of the legend, and Shakru deliberately reduces the probability of killing monsters and exploding gold coins, most players are very nervous. And since Shabak players only need 3,000 gold coins to buy potions from the Shachan grocer, which is almost 1,000 gold coins cheaper per bundle, so they spend 3,000 gold coins to buy a package of potions from Shabak and sell them in the touch and safe area for 3,500 gold coins per bundle. The price can make many players fight over it. If you buy a lot at one time, you can sell it wholesale at a cheaper price of 3 bundles of 10,000 gold coins. Don't underestimate the price difference of 260 gold coins per bundle. If you buy 10 bundles, you can get 2,600 gold coins cheaper. 40 bundles are 10,600 gold coins. If converted into RMB, it is almost 1 yuan. If you are willing to endure hardships and sell hundreds of thousands of gold coins a day, you will definitely not be able to sell it. The problem is that, if you earn dozens of dollars every day, if you persist for a month, it will not be much less than what you earn at work, dear players. After months of internal and public beta testing, and with the help of the players, Legend has revised a large number of game content, and has reached a mature stage. Legend will be officially operational and charged on August 28th. Thank you for your continued support. For your support and love, please use the service fee of this game before the 28th of this month to continue the game recharge. Please see the official website announcement for details. Thank you for your cooperation. After this announcement, Legend officially entered the paid stage, but this news stunned players who were extremely happy to play free games. Is there a charge? Doesn't that mean you can't play games for free in the future? For a moment, the players were all excited. Some were cursing, some were happy, and some were anxious. The ones who are scolding are those who are unwilling to play games. It seems that what they mean is that I'm giving you face by playing your game. You should give free games to the old men. A crappy game actually charges money, and there are labor costs, maintenance costs, and operating costs. But what does it have to do with me? Anyway, it is wrong not to let me play games for free. It is rubbish. I will play other free games. The happy people are those players who have a long-term vision. Because the game charges, a large number of people will leave the game. Then it means that the online rate of the game will drop sharply. The reduction of players means that the game will not be stuck. No one will fight monsters and no one will grab equipment. Those who stay will have the leading advantage before the new batch of players enter, or those old players recharge to enter. When no one grabs monsters, they will rush to level up. Collect some top quality equipment from SS. The legendary monthly fee card requires 35 yuan per card to be recharged and bound to the game account. After that, you can use the game time for 3 days 24 hours a day. There are currently 2 ways to recharge the legendary monthly fee card. One is to recharge by online bank transfer and the other is to recharge on the recharge platform of each internet cafe. To be continued. Chapter 285 Legendary Goddess. After charging, in order to maintain the popularity during the public beta period, Shakru decided to hold a large-scale event, which was divided into online and offline activities. The first one to be launched was the offline event Legendary Goddess, and the protagonist this time was naturally the legendary beauty Spikespis and Xiangdalen. All players who came to participate in the legendary night were randomly selected from players who purchased point cards, which once again triggered a sales boom of point cards. Even many who did not originally play Legend, but were very interested in Xiangdalen's cosplay female Taoist priest style joined the team to buy cards. After all, at this time, China's formal cosplay performances had not yet started, so many people wanted to see whether the real Xiangdalen was the same as the promotional CG and worthy of the title of goddess. How is it? Are you nervous? Shakru asked Xiangdalen, who was rehearsing intensively in the dance studio. Xiangdalen answered confidently, "One thing, but don't worry, boss, I won't let you down later. The holy Taoist robes make people feel no desire to blaspheme. The mysterious and seductive mage robes make people want to quietly open the outer layer. The warrior outfits with a bit of wildness make people admire and want to fight side by side with them." Under Xiangdalen's interpretation, the charm of the 3 professions in Legend was fully displayed, which made Shakru very impressed. This is a model born to belong to the booth and the audience. Seeing Shakru's look, Xiangdalen felt a little proud in his heart. Finally, the doubts caused by Shakru's not having a hidden rule on himself were completely eliminated. However, after these days of contact, Xiangdalen found that, although there were many women around Shakru, he was not as lustful as the rumors said. It seems that what you hear is not as good as what you see. Although Xiangdalen has participated in many fashion shows, she still couldn't help but feel a little nervous when she arrived at the venue and saw the dark crowd in the square. Her right hand unconsciously grasped Shakru's left hand tightly. It was not until she reacted that she shyly shook her hand and ran to the backstage to prepare. In fact, Shakru was also a little nervous because tonight, as the president of Legend Company, he had to give a speech. Fortunately, his speech was very short, and it was estimated that not many people in the audience paid attention to his speech. So it was soon time for the finale of the night, the performance of Legendary Goddess. At this time, the lights went out, and the whole venue fell into darkness. The fanatical and restless players also quietly quieted down, holding their breath, waiting for the moment of light. They believed that at that moment, it would be the moment when the goddess descended. The melodious flute sounded, and the whistling sound of the wind blowing the sand seemed to bring everyone into an empty wilderness. At this time, a light on the stage was turned on, and a warrior holding judgment stood proudly in the field. His burly figure, firm eyes, and exaggerated and thick judgment brought a strong impact to everyone. The audience applauded enthusiastically. This warrior shape alone is worth the ticket price tonight. At this time, the music suddenly changed, and a burst of rapid pippa sound came, ambushed from all sides. The booth shook, the lights flashed again, and suddenly 4 orc warriors with axes appeared, roaring to the sky, and roared towards the warriors. The warrior let out a long roar, and the judgment in his hand faced the 4 orcs, and fought hard with the 4 orc warriors. But 2 fists can't beat 4 hands. Although the warrior fought back hard, the situation was precarious under the joint attack of the 4 orcs. The audience was terrified. The fight on the stage was too realistic. Every move seemed not to be a performance, but a real fight on the battlefield. The harsh sound of weapons colliding, and the heart-shaking sound of collisions. If people didn't know that this was a live show, most people would probably think it was an open-air American Hollywood action blockbuster. At the critical moment, the lights were brighter, and a man in a magic robe stood on a high platform not far away, with a serious look and a low hum. A string of fireballs shot out from the man's hand, like a string of fireballs. hitting the half-orc warrior just when the warrior and the mage breathed a sigh of relief. The 4 half-orc warriors roared angrily. 3 stayed to continue besieging the warrior, and 1 went to chase the mage point in horror. The warrior and the mage fought and retreated, and met together, but the 2 were surrounded by half-orc warriors. Again. When they were about to die under the half-orc axes, a murmur like the sound of nature came from the sky point. The whole venue fell into darkness again, and there was only a little residual light around the 4 half-orc warriors and the warrior and the mage on the stage. The 2 people and 4 monsters looked up at the sky, and the audience also looked up at the sky point. A strong beam of light descended from the sky, and in the light, a graceful figure wearing a female Taoist robe that all players are familiar with, slowly slid down from the air under the protection of a holy white light point. At this time, all the audiences in the audience felt nervous, their breathing became rapid, and their eyes widened, wanting to see clearly whether this angel who was slowly falling from the sky, the angel without wings, was the female Taoist in the CG, the goddess in everyone's heart point. At this time, the true face of the goddess in the air finally flashed on the big screen point. With a cry of surprise, the whole audience was in an uproar. Seeing the holy Xiang flashing on the big screen without a trace of worldly fireworks, everyone couldn't help but stand up and shout wildly that the female Taoist in the CG, the goddess rumored on the internet, is a real person. She really exists in this world. The whole scene was noisy to the extreme, and the duel between the warrior and the orc that made everyone feel distressed just now was thrown out of the sky by everyone. At this moment, there was only one person in their eyes and hearts, the holy goddess. Seeing the situation gradually getting out of control, the audience rushed to the place where the goddess descended. Just as Shakru was about to stop the performance tonight and protect Xiang safety to the maximum extent, Xiang, who was still in the sky, was not panicked. Looking at the people gradually pouring in from the stage, Xiang squinted her eyes, smiled sweetly, put her slender index finger on her lips, made a gesture of silence, and then pointed to the seats of the people, pouting her lips and showing a cute expression of asking for help. The already crazy crowd, seeing the goddess's request on the big screen, suddenly quieted down, quietly returned to their seats, and watched the next performance. The crisis was resolved. The performance continued. Witnessing the danger of the warrior and the mage, Xiang in the sky frowned slightly, and all the audience couldn't help but feel a little distressed in their hearts. Zizzy frowned just like this. The goddess in the air stretched out her right hand as white as jade, and her red lips opened slightly. Like the lingering sound of music, the crisp voice that lasted for 3 days floated in the air. In my name, healing magic. A ball of white light slipped out of the hands of the female Taoist priest, slowly surrounded the warrior and the mage, and disappeared. The 2 showed a look of joy. When the white light disappeared, the 2's previous injuries were completely healed. At the same time, they roared and launched the most violent attack on the 4 half-orc warriors. In my name, summon the Killin and drive away the evil in the world, Xiang shouted lightly, and the roar of the beast came. The 4 half-orc warriors turned into white light and disappeared under the attack point. Goddess, goddess, goddess. The crowd below the stage cheered loudly and stood up to applaud. Shakru couldn't help but laugh. This show tonight is definitely worth 100 points, and he believes that after tonight, Xiang will be famous in China for her goddess look. Of course, Xiang is just a show girl now, and cannot be compared with the big stars in the real entertainment industry, but Lin Feng believes that with his support, Xiang will definitely become the most dazzling star of this era. Chapter 286 Spring Festival Activities. The offline event Legendary Goddess was very successful. The next step is a Legendary Spring Festival Gala, to be held at the end of the year, so the program list was announced half a month ago. The first program that officially started at 8 o'clock was the official staff of Legend paying New Year's greetings to the players and sending the first New Year's gift. At 8:30, the whole region and all servers will start for the first time. After the end, a unique auction will begin, and a batch of mysterious treasures will be auctioned at the meeting. After the auction conference, the first knowledge examination room in the evening program will begin. Players only need to rush to the coordinates 650-30 on the map of Mengshan province within the time of 21:32 2 o'clock. There will be an examiner there. Everyone poses questions. The more correct answers to the 20 questions, the more generous the prizes will be. The second exam will be held in Beach. The time is 22:303:00. Coordinates 650, 620. The third game is in the VIP Valley. The time is 23:304:00. Coordinates 525,735. There are a total of 60 quiz questions and brain teasers. If you answer them all correctly, it will be very good. You may get one of the famous weapons such as Inferno, Magic Wand, Silver Snake, etc. as a prize. Even if you don't answer all the questions correctly, as long as you complete 50 questions, you will receive a random Walmart series of brand name jewelry as a gift. So this will be a night of great prizes and constant surprises at 10 o'clock in the evening. There is a surprise treasure hunt waiting for players to participate. It is said that Yuleo hid the love ring, the treasure of love, in some monsters in the Martha continent. As long as you find this love ring, you will receive the blessing of love on the 14th day of the Lunar New Year 3 days later. At the end of the program, it is also written that after this revision, a large number of tasks and task maps will be opened. Some game element have been modified to make the game more interesting, and double experience will be opened during the 7 days during the Spring Festival. And a large number of Spring Festival activities, such as Monster Siege in the first grade of junior high school, Treasure Hunt Battle in the second grade of junior high school, 10,000s of people spend Valentine's Day in the third grade of junior high school, etc. And there are new game scenes open at 8 o'clock in the evening on New Year's Eve. Red letters floated across the screen. Dear players, the new year is coming to us. The New Year's Eve bell is about to ring. All the staff of the Legend working team would like to send all the players and friends Happy New Year to everyone. The 2002 Legendary Online Spring Festival Gala is now officially underway, with the end of the official New Year's auspicious words. Fireworks suddenly erupted all over the game map. The Taoist priests group therapy in the Mage's Ice Roar suddenly exploded above any player's head. The spectacular scene of thousands of flowers blooming shocked all the players. Their first reaction was to think that someone was killing them. When they realized it, it turned out I couldn't help but burst into laughter when I realized that this was what the official term was. Fireworks point waves of magic effects flickered in Touching, Mengshang, Biki, and anywhere there were people. Countless players were running and laughing under the fireworks. Not to be outdone, the Taoist players also threw out their own magic to add to the dazzling scene point at the same time. The system issued a red letter announcement. The party has just begun, and the orcs who have worked hard for a year have arrived carrying rich gifts to greet them. Everyone, hurry up to welcome their arrival. Take the thick red envelopes from their hands. The so-called orc red envelope means that all the orcs spawned in the VIP Valley and Woma Forest carry a large number of gold coins. The reason for this is to appear festive, and secondly to give the public beta players away, to make up for the gold coin shortage opportunity point, since each half orc can earn 20,000 to 30,000 gold coins, which is 20 to 30 times more than usual. The first program of the party aroused the emotions of all players in the server to the highest level. Although the half orcs refreshed on the map, orcs' massive player base pales in comparison. You can't get many gold coins at all, but the golden light that bursts out when the orc dies seriously stimulates the players who have been poor for a long time, making everyone rush to grab gold coins on the ground with red eyes. If the orc red envelope is to make up for the shortfall in gold coins of low level players, then the next treasure auction is to search for gold coins in the hands of top players. A few protective and paralysis rings were auctioned for tens of millions. Gold coins generally maintain the balance of gold coins in the server. If the orc red envelope is to give players gold coins, then the Monster Siege on the next day is to give players equipment. During the Monster Siege, a large number of bosses are usually hidden deep in the map and are rarely seen. They all took the initiative to come to major cities. Of course, there was also a crisis behind the welfare. Martha's crisis has emerged. The evil forces hidden throughout the continent have been released from the underground by evil mysterious people. The huge army of monsters is approaching the Beach Imperial City, the VIP Valley, and the Allied Earth City. It is about to approach. The heroes of Martha, the last habitat of mankind, take up your weapons to defend it. A home. If the monster army captures all the cities and kills King Beach, the continent of Martha will fall into a land of no return and the level of all players will drop by 3 levels. Fight to protect our world! Exclamation mark. The Spring Festival celebration Monster Siege starts in 5 minutes. I have to say that the general downgrade to level 3 really frightened the players. Those alts with levels in their teens and 20s were fine, but if players above level 30 were dropped to level 3, it would definitely make them collapse point. But when everyone saw the system announcement of the first wave of Monster Siege, they were not so worried. The first wave of monsters has arrived at Ming's Hangtacheng, VIP mountain village in Beach Imperial City. The mighty multi-hooked cat and scarecrow army. The army is in danger, and King Biki has issued an emergency rescue order, waiting for the rescue of the warriors. There will be generous rewards waiting for you, especially when everyone discovered that the gold coins and equipment exploded by these cats and scarecrows were all over the floor. They all immediately understood that this was actually giving money and equipment to everyone. The same was true for the second wave of the skeleton army. Only the combination of the evil pincers and white boars in the third wave made everyone feel a little bit of pressure point. Maybe they found that the difficulty was too low, so the last wave of officials said heroes. After fighting side by side with one heart and one mind, we finally repelled the attacks of the monsters, but the battle was not over. While everyone was fighting in blood, the leader of Woma had quietly led their followers from the Woma cult to invade the imperial city of Beach. At this moment, the noble king of Bichi has been held hostage by them under the orders of the leader of the Woma cult. The Woma guards have led a large number of monsters to massacre in Beach City. At the same time, the demon-touching dragon god from the abyss also quietly appeared in front of the gate of Beach Palace in an attempt to stop the heroic warriors from far away. Warriors of the Alliance, the allied forces need your support. It all depends on your decision, whether you will be reduced to 3 levels by the vicious curse, or save the king, and receive generous rewards. Chapter 287 Revision of the Contract. After more than half a year of operation, Legend has now become the second largest money-making tool for Shakru. There are no accounts receivable, and no bank loans. The daily cash income exceeds 1 million, although Shakru has long known that Legend makes money. But he never thought that he would make so much money. Of course, it's not just Shakru who sees Legend making money. Many domestic and foreign game companies and even capital outside the industry are targeting the online game market and intend to rush in to share a piece of the cake. Shakru welcomes these healthy competitions. But at this time something happened that made him very disgusting. On this day, as soon as Shakru came to the company, Pretty came in and said to him, "Boss, there is a Korean named Park Wenheo coming to see you." Park Wenheo? Why did he come to me? Shakru asked with a frown. Pretty shook her head and said, "He said he came to discuss the legendary contract with you, but I don't know the specific situation. This contract has been signed for more than a year. What else is there to talk about? Forget it, let him come in. I will ask him face to face." Shakru waved his hand and said. After a while, Pu Wenheo followed Pretty in and congratulated him as soon as he came in. "Congratulations to Mr. Pandit. Now NR2 is very popular in China and is called the #1 online game in China. Mr. Pandit must have made a lot of money." "Quite a few, right?" Although Park Moon-ho said congratulations, his heart was extremely bitter. Who would have thought that NR2, which was tepid in Korea and had no market in Europe and the United States, would become such a hit in China? According to the previous paragraph, according to a survey by the marketing department, 8 out of 10 online game players in China are now playing Legend. Oh my god, think about it again. China is a big country with a population of more than 1 billion. How big is the market here? How did I do it in the first place? Have you ever thought about coming to China for promotion? As a result, the Indian is now being advantaged. Thinking about it now, he almost regrets it. But fortunately, there is still a chance to make amends. Just when Park Wenheo was thinking wildly, Shakru calmly corrected him. "Mr. Park, you are wrong. It is not NR2 that is popular in China now, but Legend." Then he continued to ask, "I heard that, Mr. Park, are you here to discuss the contract with me today? But haven't we already negotiated that the contract term is 10 years, and it seems that there is still a long time before the 10-year term?" Pu Wenhao nodded and said, yes, it is indeed a long time, but I think this contract should be revised. Revision? Why revision? Shakru asked with a frown. Pu Wenhao smiled and replied, because we feel that the agreement signed at the beginning is no longer in line with the current situation, so we would like to negotiate with you, Mr. Pandit. Oh, what do you want to revise? Shakru continued to ask. We feel that the original agency fee was too low and completely inconsistent with NR2's popularity in China, so we plan to renegotiate the agency fee with you. Park Wenhao explained calmly. Shakru asked tentatively, that is the amount you want to increase the agency fee? Park Wenhao nodded and said, that's right, because the current agency fee is completely out of proportion to the popularity of NR2. Shakru asked in a cold tone, then how much do you want to improve? Pu Wenhao pondered for a moment, and then said, it's not much, just 30% of the net profit. Originally, if Park Wenhao wanted less, Shakru might have given it to him, in order to reduce the trouble. But now when he heard this guy opening his mouth in the lion's mouth, he felt anger welling up in his heart, so he sneered, Mr. Park Wenhao, you said so. That's interesting. Oh, because now Legend is popular in China, so you want to increase the agency fee? According to your opinion, if Legend is not popular in China, can I ask you to lower the agency fee? What a joke. If there is any modification, then why do we need a contract, Mr. Pandit? Please don't be excited. As we do business, we must abide by the contract. That's why I said I came to negotiate with you, since you also know that in doing business you must abide by the contract, then I think there is nothing to discuss about this matter. Shakru replied coldly, there is a Chinese saying that harmony brings wealth. Mr. Pandit, you said it so absolutely, which is not conducive to our future cooperation. Park Wenhao said with a hint of meaning. Oh, I really don't know what impact my doing this will have on our future cooperation. Do you dare to tear up the contract, Mr. Park? Shakru replied unceremoniously. Pu Wenhao shook his head and said, of course we don't dare to tear up the contract, but Mr. Pandit, please don't forget that the copyright of NR2 is in our hands. If we don't cooperate, something unpleasant may happen to you. If it were another time and another person, Shakru might have been willing to give in, but I don't know what happened today. Why did he find Park Wenhao opposite him uncomfortable? So he still said forcefully, oh, then I really want to see it. Seeing that the atmosphere had become tense to this point, Park Wenhao had no choice but to stand up and said with a livid face, Mr. Pandit, I hope you can think about it carefully, otherwise it will end up causing trouble for both sides, which will be detrimental to both of us. Haha, both sides suffer? You really think highly of yourself. For such a money-minded and shameless person, Shakru could hardly resist the urge to curse. Even after Park Wenhao left for a long time, Shakru still felt angry. Finally, he vented his anger on Pivapalava's body, which made him feel better. However, to his surprise, Pivapalava continued the topic and advised, boss, I think this Korean should be well prepared. You really have to be careful of his revenge. Shakru replied indifferently, what revenge can he have? The contract has been signed. My agency rights are for 10 years. At most, he will not give me the agency rights after 10 years. But by then, I still have to decide whether I want to do it or not. What Shakru didn't expect was that Park Wenhao not only really had a revenge method, but also his revenge method was quite insidious and effective. Once he made a move, Shakru had a headache and seriously affected the income of Legend. This revenge method is private server. To be continued. Chapter 288 Private Server. For a long time, the two biggest headaches for online game companies are plugins and private servers. Regarding plugins, Shakru pursues a high-pressure crackdown policy. His subordinates, whether Infosys or the highly paid maintenance team, are experts in this area. In addition, Shakru knew the plugin function in his previous life, so the crackdown on plugins has always been effective. As for private servers, since they appeared after Legend had been operating for a long time, Shakru has never been in a hurry to deal with them. The problem of private servers has always been a headache for game operators. In theory, the server and client of the game are two completely different program modules. As long as the server version is not leaked, Private servers will not appear. However, controlling this small server side has become a long-standing problem. Whether it is a multinational company like Microsoft or a well-known domestic game manufacturer like Perfect World and Shanghai, they cannot escape the bad luck. For example, the control of Dragon Nest and DNF by domestic operators is already quite strict, but the Taiwan-based game Agent Orange shut down due to poor product operation, and its technicians sold the server to make the last profit. Even if the leaked server files are incomplete, for private server creators with programming skills, they can completely understand some principles of server operation by comparing with the actual server, and then use the corresponding server tools to edit. This decoding process is very slow, not because the principle is so complicated, but more because it is a huge workload and requires a high level of programmer comprehension. But ants bite the elephant to death. Even if each private server only completes a part of it, it is enough for other private servers to further learn from and improve, which is why many private servers are mostly behind the official servers in terms of version point. Even so, such private servers alone are enough to cause trouble for operators, not only in terms of profit sharing, but also in terms of subtle influence on the player group. Point 1 is to divert users. Players have limited time and energy. Once they play private servers, they are unlikely to play official servers again, and naturally stay away from the influence of official information platforms. Since the early days of Legend, Miracle, Millennium and Red Moon, operators and private servers have started a continuous war that has continued to this day. For games like Legend, the number of online users of major private servers once exceeded 300,000. If other types of private servers are included, there are at least millions of active users in them. How much profit is contained in this? Cutting off someone's financial resources is like killing their parents. How can game manufacturers turn a blind eye? The second is corporate image. The official attitude determines the intensity of the crackdown on private servers. If you turn a blind eye to the existence of private servers, it will inevitably trigger a wolf pack effect. At that time, private servers will emerge like mushrooms after rain. How should operators respond? Of course, the legal and human costs of banning a private server as soon as it is discovered are too high, while the cost of setting up a private server is too low. Now search for the so-called online game standalone on the e-commerce platform, and you will find that you can buy the server side of the private server for only a few dollars, and it can also provide technical guidance for the entire process. Even private server operators can rent servers here, commission the establishment of private server websites, develop anti-plugin login clients, and customize paid props in games. All of this costs only a few thousand yuan per month, and the bandwidth cost is only 2 or 3,000 yuan. You can imagine how low the threshold for establishing private servers is. Therefore, it is the best choice to shoot the first bird to stick out. As long as the private server is not established, it will not make a big wave. However, cracking down on private servers is a long-term systematic project, which not only requires a lot of manpower, but also requires persistent public relations and publicity. Even and most of the time, companies must be prepared to make long-term losses and make a profit. Every game operator hates private servers and spares no effort to crack down on private servers. However, due to the current imperfect laws, cracking down on private servers has problems such as difficulty in discovery, evidence collection, and punishment. First of all, it is difficult to find. Most of the private servers are released in a hidden way, and there is no fixed release place. Most of them are released through small advertisements on some websites or certain platforms, or even on social media such as questions groups. For operators, even if they hire people to find them specifically, they may not be able to find them all. Secondly, it is difficult to obtain evidence. Even if a private server is found, you have to follow the clues to check the IP address of the private server first, and then find the corresponding server room location. In addition to the location of the server, the operator must confirm where the private server gang is, right? Most cunning gangs adopt a remote operation method of separating people and machines, and at the same time disguise the IP address of the server, or even simply set up a server abroad. At this time, how can the operator catch people and find people? How to prove that the owner of the server is the private server operator? After finding the server, finally, it is difficult to punish. Although private servers have grabbed a lot of profits, that should belong to official operators. The amount is very small when it is distributed to each private server. Even if only the first bird is caught, the amount is mostly only hundreds of thousands or millions. After deducting the server rent, store rent, water, and electricity costs they spent, how much money can be compensated, or even whether it can be compensated is a problem. The private server operator transfers all the funds to a third party, and there is no money in his own account. How can the court enforce it? However, recently private servers of Legend have sprung up in China, like mushrooms after a rain. The free operation mode, rapid upgrade speed, smooth game environment, and terrifying equipment explosion rate have immediately attracted a lot of Legend players. Although many people go there to try something new, it has generally lowered the growth rate of new players of Legend. This situation naturally attracted great attention from Shakru, so he sent people out to investigate, and the results soon came out. Boss, we have found out where the clients of these private servers were leaked. Oh, thank you for finding it out so quickly. Well, was it leaked in Europe? Because the legendary private server in the previous life was leaked in Europe, Shakru asked. The investigator shook his head and said, it didn't come from Europe, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to investigate so quickly. Oh, where did that come from? It couldn't have been betrayed by someone within our company, right? I have to say that this possibility is what Shakru is most worried about. Boss, don't worry, it didn't come from our company. After we found out, it was sent by someone from South Korea's ad company to spread it privately, and the latest version was spread. When he heard this result, Shakru felt a little unbelievable. What? It was spread by ad? How could it be spread by him? He made this legend himself. How could he spread the private server at? This time, Biva Palava on the side interjected, boss, do you think this is the result of a lose-lose situation? That the Korean said, Piva Palava's words awakened Shakru. Yes, with the Korean stick's ability, he could do such a thing. No wonder he was so awesome at that time, and asked her to increase the agency fee. Is the co-authorship waiting for me here? Chapter 289, Recruitment. The only thing that makes Shakru feel lucky is that, although there are many private servers now, they are not large in scale. Most of them are used by internet cafes to attract customers. Players go in just to have a fresh and lively game. Once the freshness wears off, no more playing. For this kind of small private servers, Shakru adopts the strategy of making loud noises and making small raindrops and killing chickens to scare monkeys. He usually increases the intensity and determination of publicity in magazines, newspapers and forums to crack down on private servers, and then catches a few unlucky ones to scare chickens and monkeys. In addition to these small or internet cafe type private servers, there are also some very well operated private servers, such as 5 Park, which is one example. In just 1 month of operation, it has gathered more than 10,000 players, and has done well in some aspects. Even better than the official server, Shakru decided to adopt a completely different strategy for such a private server. Jingzhou City, Hubei province can be said to be the hardest hit area for legendary private servers. Jingzhou Internet Police alone have destroyed countless legendary private servers over the years. But even so, this place is still the base camp of private servers. However, if anyone in the industry leaves today, if you enter the private room of Fiang restaurant in Jingzhou City, you will definitely be surprised, because basically all the bosses of local large-scale legendary private servers are gathered here today, and what is even more surprising, is that sitting in the chief seat is actually Fang, the director of the marketing department of Legend Ocean Point. This scene is a bit like a policeman inviting a thief to dinner. Perhaps this kind of scene may have appeared in old Hong Kong movies such as La Mei Heo and Inspector Lai, but in China this is absolutely jaw-dropping. In fact, both Fang He and the major private server owners felt that today's meal was very awkward. For Fang He, these people in front of him should have been the targets of his company's strong attack, because these guys have taken away the performance that should belong to his company. According to the old Chinese saying, killing people's wealth is like killing their parents. This is absolutely, there is no room for negotiation. Of course, from another perspective, Fang He also admires them, because many of their operational ideas and game improvement methods are very inspiring and useful for official servers. Sometimes Fang He and others say privately, these guys have this brain, so why not make a new game by themselves? Wouldn't that be able to make money openly? Why be so sneaky? As for these private server owners, although they usually shout that I'm just a private server who can do anything to me, but when facing the real master, he still felt guilty. After all, he also knew that what he did was not very honorable and could not be mentioned on the stage. The reason why I came today was, firstly, to show that I was not afraid of trouble. Secondly, Fang He had clearly written on the greeting card that he was discussing a major matter with everyone today, not to arrest them. As soon as the dishes were served, an impatient guy said, "Director Fang, you only said that there is a big event today. What kind of big event is this? If you don't explain clearly, we brothers won't be able to eat this meal." Fang He glanced at this guy and recognized that he was Tang Chang, the boss of the original legend, so he smiled and said, "Boss Tang is really impatient. Okay, let's get straight to the point. Let me show you something first." Then, he motioned to his assistant to send a document to everyone present. The impatient Tang Chang opened the file and was shocked by the title above. He saw legendary authorization letter clearly written in red letters on it. After a while, he stumbled and asked in disbelief, "Director Fang, what does your authorization letter mean?" Takeda, the boss of 5 Park sitting next to him, glared at him and said, "What else can you mean? Didn't you see it clearly written on it? Legend Company wants to officially authorize us. If we accept it, it will not be a private server, but a private server. An upright official, even." With Takeda's explanation, Tang Chang still found it a bit unbelievable, so he continued to ask, "Director Fang, is this really the case?" Fang He nodded and said, "Yes, that is indeed the case, but the contract has many terms. Boss Tang, you'd better read it carefully." After a while, Takeda slowly raised his head and asked, "Director Fang, I have taken a general look at this contract. I will tell you my feelings and you can see if what I said is right. Although the contract has many terms, it seems that the general summary is that if we join Legend Company, we will be an independent marketing group under the marketing department, but we must hand over half of our monthly income to the company. Is this what it means?" You understand correctly, but there are many benefits that you haven't looked at in detail. For example, the company will help you with daily maintenance and will give you official legal status. Before he could finish speaking, Tang Chang interrupted him and said, "To put it simply, your Legend Company wants to recruit us all, right?" Although Fang He was amused by Tang Chang's statement and almost laughed out loud, he still felt that the statement was quite reasonable, so he replied, "There are similarities, but they are not exactly the same." Tang Chang shook his head and said, "This is definitely not possible. When I watched Water Margin, the part that I couldn't stand the most was the part about recruiting people. I would never be able to do such a thing." Fang He laughed dumbly and said, "Boss Tang, it was you who said this about the recruitment, but we have never said that." While the two were talking, Takeda suddenly said, "Director Fang, I agree with this contract, but is the share ratio too high, brother? Woo, are you being recruited now?" Tang Chang asked in confusion. Takeda sighed and said, "Xiao Chang, I think this opportunity is good. As long as the profit sharing ratio is reasonable, we should sign the contract. After all, what we do is illegal. Although the official and internet police have not cracked down on us, it does not mean that they will never find us. So it is better to join. At least the money is earned steadily." Fang He said on the side, "Boss Wu said it well. We all come out to make money. Since there is a chance to make a fortune safely, why should we take the risk of being caught at any time? It is not worth it, and there is only this opportunity. If you miss this opportunity, there will be no such store. Everyone must seize this good opportunity. This is also the courage of our boss Pandit. Have you heard of anyone doing this in the past?" These words made everyone present silent. It is indeed a rare opportunity to whitewash. But at this time, a young man sitting in the corner asked timidly, "Director Fang, why is my contract different from everyone else's? PS. The names of these bosses are all made up. I can't find them on Baidu. Of course, even if I can find them, it is not convenient to write their real names." Chapter 290 Silence. Fang He looked up and found that it was CMO from Beauty Legend who asked the question. Fang He knew that the company's handling method was completely different from that of others. The scale of Beauty Legend was very small, and the boss was not interested in this small private server, but CMO. Silence was still very young at that time, but in a few years he would be almost the #1 in domestic web games. Wind and Cloud Washang and Havoc in Heaven were both produced by him, and the modes of these two games were copied and plagiarized by countless web games, which shows their classic degree in the chaos in the web game market. Therefore, CMO did not get a letter of authorization, but a letter of appointment from the R/U 0026D department. It is no wonder that this young man was so surprised, and after seeing his letter of appointment, everyone suddenly realized why the Legend company invited him today. After some bargaining, most people signed the letter of authorization and agreed to join the marketing department of the Legend company. So far, Shakru's differentiation policy has been successfully completed. According to his thinking, once private servers appear, they cannot be completely eliminated. Since sooner or later, a group of wolves will rise up, it is better to tame a few wolves, to be used as sheepdogs. In fact, Shakru also notes that his treatment method is only a temporary solution, but he has never thought about completely eradicating the Legend private server, because he knows very well that Legend will not be popular for a few years. Now it is just that domestic online game players have just come into contact with online games, so most people cannot adapt to games with too complicated operations. After a few years, games like Legend with rough graphics and single gamma play will naturally be squeezed out by games such as World of Warcraft. So as long as they can safely eat the profits of the first 5 years, they can develop other online games later. After finishing the Legend private server, Shakru returned his attention to the most profitable Ganges pharmaceutical factory under his company. It is now 2001, and it is not far from the terrifying storm in his memory, so he must prepare early. This terrifying storm is the asterisk in 2002. In his previous life, Shakru experienced the whole process of the epidemic. At that time, he had just entered college. From rumors to school closures to panic and boredom, it can be said that the whole experience of the epidemic is enough to write a book, so naturally he can't forget it. He can't remember the cause of the epidemic. It seems to be related to the Cantonese eating civet cats, but it seems not to be related. However, it must have started in Guangdong at the end of 2001, and then quickly spread to the whole country. In this case, the two pharmaceutical factories in northeast China had the greatest impact on him. Just like the previous Indian plague, in this case, customers must not be told that the drugs are produced in northeast China. At this time, Shakru couldn't help but secretly thank himself for not shutting down the production line of the Indian main factory, otherwise there would be no explanation. It seems that he will have to open a branch factory somewhere else in the future, otherwise it will still be a trouble. But where to open the branch factory is a problem. Putting aside the worries of opening a new branch for the time being, Shakru first called Luhan. Luhan, how is the operation of the factory now? When he heard that it was a call from the big boss, Luhan naturally had to answer respectfully, "Boss, don't worry, everything is normal." Shakru nodded and said, "That's good. You hold a meeting with the workers and tell them that everyone may have to work hard and overtime recently. We need to stock up a batch of goods, so we require that the output of the whole year next year be produced before March next year. Can this be done?" Boss, if the output of the whole year is produced in advance, then the production task of next year will be reduced accordingly. Luhan asked tentatively. "Well, that's right. It is estimated that it is not just a matter of reduction. It is very likely to stop production. So don't prepare too much raw materials for next year, otherwise it will easily go bad. Of course, this must be kept confidential and cannot be mentioned to anyone. Do you understand?" Shakru said sternly. Luhan quickly assured, "Boss, don't worry, I'm the most confidential person." "Okay, I'll contact the raw material supplier and hold a meeting for each workshop. Once the raw materials arrive, we'll organize production immediately." "Well, that's good, but remember not to affect the quality because of rushing. No matter what time it is, quality is the first priority." After calling Luhan, Shakru called the second branch in Harbin in the same way, and finally notified Modi to prepare a warehouse at the main factory and recruit more people to prepare for the explanation to the dealers next year. After receiving the notice from Shakru, Luhan called Fang Fang. Fang Fang, I haven't seen you for a few days. Do you miss me? Fang Fang said coquettishly, I was just saying that. You tortured me half to death the day before yesterday. Why do you want to abuse me in just 2 days? After teasing for a few words, Luhan said seriously, okay, I won't make trouble with you. I have something serious to talk to you about this time. Now there is a good news and a bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? Fang Fang pouted and said, oh, you are so embarrassed to show off such an old routine. Okay, let's hear the bad news first. Next year, the purchase of raw materials from you will be reduced to 1/10. Luhan said lightly. Then, the good news is that the bad news just now is false, right? Fang Fang said indifferently. Luhan shook his head and said, no, this news is indeed true, and maybe there is not even 1/10 of the demand. Hearing this, Fang Fang realized that Luhan was not joking with her, and said urgently, why? Don't you gang want to change suppliers? My dear, you can't do this. You see, all of you and gang wants the goods, which time are we not? I'll deliver it to you with guaranteed quality and timely delivery, but there's never any delay, and you still don't know what I've done to you in the past 2 years. I've given you everything, so you can't be so ruthless. By the end, I was crying. After hearing Fang Fang's cry, Luhan laughed dumbly and said, oh, what are you thinking about in your little head? Who told you that our gang is going to change suppliers? How can I be willing to change suppliers if you are so good and obedient people? In fact, the good news is that the supply will increase this year, and all the raw materials for next year will be supplied this year. Oh, that's it. It really scared me to death. Oh, by the way, if you take away all the raw materials for next year this year, and don't replenish them next year, then do you want to stop working next year? Fang Fang was confused. Asked. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Isotis Route. Luhan sneered. How is it possible? Our wool gang is selling so well all over the world. Why doesn't the boss want to do it? How can he still think he is making too much money? Then, why did he do this? Fang Fang asked. I have told you before that our boss is a very magical person. He seems to be able to predict what will happen in the future, so he will always make some arrangements in advance that make outsiders look inexplicable. But when things happen, you will know his good intentions before. Luhan boasted for Shakru. Fang Fang said disapprovingly, TCH, you are so awesome. I feel that if your boss was a woman, you would have fallen in love with him long ago. By the way, I heard that men are very popular in India. Is it possible? You and your boss are already, hahaha. Before she could finish speaking, Luhan said fiercely, don't you know whether I'm a man or not? Humph, just because of what you said just now, I order you to wash yourself up and wait for me tonight. It's time for me to show you what it means to be a man. No, my aunt is here today and I really can't accompany you. How about I ask Sister Yimei for help tonight? Fang Fang said pitifully. After 2 years of contact and familiarity, Fang Fang and Yimei, 2 women who each wanted what they wanted from Luhan, had already become quite familiar with each other and cooperated tacitly. Therefore, Fang Fang was the first to know that Luhan wanted to deal with her. The reaction was to ask Yimei for help. Luhan thought for a moment, and then agreed. Okay, I just have something to tell her, so let's tell her together tonight. But although Yimei will help you out tonight, you don't have to. I thought it was nothing. Just give me a good bite at night. Do you understand? At night. After Luhan squirted hard twice in Fang Fang's mouth and Yimei's body, he lay on the bed contentedly, playing with Yimei's plumpness, and said casually, Xiaomei, you have been stocking up on supplies recently. The employee benefits for the May festival will be increased, at least double the usual ones, and the benefits for the August festival and the spring festival will also be doubled. You have to be mentally prepared. Although Yimei had already heard the news from Wan Fang Fang, she still pretended to be ignorant and asked, why did you suddenly raise the benefits so high? Is it possible that your Indian boss is going to give you a salary increase? What? About a salary increase? Because this year's production tasks are heavy, the boss decided to double everyone's benefits. We can't let the horses run and not eat grass at the same time. Lu Han explained, and then he seemed to have thought of it. What? He said sternly, by the way, you should be careful with the things this time. Don't buy those second-rate goods to fool things around. Many people were dissatisfied with the last New Year's benefits, and some people came to me to complain of, cut, the peach you gave me for free is still too big for the pit. If you ask me, this is because you have a good temper, and you let them get used to it. Since they feel dissatisfied, then don't take it, if you have the ability. If you deal with them a few times, they will be honest. Yes. Yimei said disapprovingly. Lu Han said unhappily, I will take care of what needs to be taken care of, but you can't go too far here. I would say the same for you. Even if you purchase goods through normal channels, you will make a lot of money. Why bother? If you want to get cheaper, go to the south. I heard that many of them are homespun workshops and they are very dirty. Yimei originally wanted to refute, but then she thought about it and said while giving Lu Han a massage, okay, as you know, I will definitely not get the goods from the small factory this time, but it will be doubled this year. What about next year? Will it double? If so, then I will sign a long-term contract with a big manufacturer so that I can get more discounts. Lu Han shook his head and said, how can there be such a good thing? This year is because the production tasks are heavy and workers need to work overtime frequently, so the benefits have been doubled. Next year there will be almost no production tasks. It is hard to say whether we can have benefits, let alone double them. Times? You can't. How will your life be like next year? Yimei said in shock. You have already made next year's money this year, so you can take a break next year. Lu Han said disapprovingly, then how can it be done? This year is this year and next year is next year. How can they be mixed together? Oh, my dear, just help me think of a way. Yimei said coquettishly. Lu Han spread his hands and said, there is really nothing we can do about this. According to our boss, not only our factory, but all walks of life will be affected next year, so next year will not be a good year for doing business. Then he looked at Yimei's pursed lips. Looking like this, Lu Han smiled again and said, but, the boss gave me a way to make a little money, but I'm a little unsure about this. I don't know if you are interested. As soon as they heard that there was a way to make money, Yimei and Wan Fang Fang's eyes lit up. They immediately came over and asked, oh, what's the way to make money? Tell me quickly. Lu Han pondered for a moment and then said, the boss told me that if you are interested, you can stock up on some Isatis root medicine. It is said that no matter how much you stock up, you can make money, and you can make at least 3 times. Hazy, I thought it was some good thing. What's the value of hoarding that stuff of Isatis root? It's the most commonly used medicine. If it can triple the price, then other medicines will have to be sold. The price is sky high. I don't think this is reliable. Wan Fang Fang said disapprovingly. Yeah, I think so too. If I stock up some medicines with a relatively small production volume, I think it's okay. But the Isatis root thing can be said to be everywhere, but the boss has always been amazing. Many inexplicable arrangements beforehand have proved to be extremely wise decisions afterwards, so I shouldn't doubt him, and there is no need for him to fool me. Lu Han said very contradictory. Yimei asked on the side, since it is certain to make money, and it is a threefold profit, why doesn't he do it himself? The boss said that he doesn't lack this little money now, and making this kind of money by taking advantage of the fire is very damaging to his reputation, so he doesn't do it. Lu Han murmured to explain, humph, excuses. I don't believe there are still businessmen in this world who think money is hot. Yimei snorted coldly. P.S. Because I'm getting married this Sunday, I have been very busy during this period, so the quality of the recent chapters is a little lower. Please forgive me. In addition, the story of the protagonist's wedding should have been written a long time ago, but then I thought, since my wedding day is coming soon, I might as well release the chapter about the protagonist's wedding on the day of my wedding, just to add to the fun. Chapter 292 Godfather. If Shakru heard this conversation, he would definitely be depressed to death. He originally wanted to give his factory director a thumbs up and make him earn more, but he didn't expect that he didn't believe him at all. The price increase of Isotis root seems a bit difficult to understand, but in fact, during the period, the price of this thing was rising 3 times a day. Moreover, in order to increase prices, these pharmacies all use almost the same rhetoric. The ones that used to sell for 8 yuan a pack are made in Henan, and the ones that cost 20 yuan a pack are produced by Harbin Pharmaceutical. They contain more medicinal materials and are more powerful. A few days ago, I started to sell a pack of Isotis root produced in Yunnan for 30 yuan. It is said that the medicinal materials in Yunnan are all natural. But in fact they are the same thing. There is no difference. It is just an excuse to increase the price. But at that time, when everyone was in urgent need of medical treatment, they regarded Isotis root as a preventive miracle medicine. So no matter how expensive it was someone buys it. Point at the same time, someone who also had complicated feelings for Shakru was Xiang Dalin. She originally thought that Shakru was a big pervert, but after a period of contact, she found that this man was a pervert, but he had some advantages. That is, he never forces himself on others, and he rarely seems to take the initiative to pursue a girl. At least he has never encountered any harassment since he endorsed his company. Point on the contrary, my agency has been giving me a lot of headaches recently. At the company's appreciation dinner a few days ago, I was spotted by an old man. He couldn't help but look at me lustfully all the time, and he also wanted to recognize himself as his boss. Daughter, come on, who doesn't know that the goddaughter in this circle is actually a daughter used for sex? If he hadn't been in front of so many people, he would have poured the wine in his glass on his face, but this guy hadn't finished playing yet. In the past few days, people had been trying to persuade him one after another. Just when Xiang Dalin was thinking wildly, her manager Suen came over, first brought her a glass of water, and then said, Lin, how are you thinking about Mr. Lee's matter? Upon hearing that, even her own agent started to lobby for the old man. Xiang Dalin said angrily, Sister Wen, do you even want me to accompany that old man? What? Old man? That's Mr. Lee, the big financier of our company. He has made several models famous. How many people want to accompany him, but they haven't had the chance yet. He likes you, so he plans to recognize you as a goddaughter. How do you know how to cherish such a good opportunity? Su Wen said with some displeasure. Xiang Dalin said speechlessly, Sister Wen, others don't know what is going on with Mr. Lee, don't you? He has flattered a few people, but how many girls has he ruined? There was another girl last month. I came to him with a full stomach, but what happened? I just gave him 20,000 yuan and sent it away. Sister Wen, you don't want me to be like that, do you? That girl is blackmailing Mr. Lee. He is so old, how can he possibly get pregnant? So it is obvious that she came to blackmail Mr. Lee after having sex with another man. And your situation is different from those who just, it's not the same thing as a debut girl. You are already well known, and Mr. Lee is interested in your future, so he plans to praise you. Suen explained patiently. Oh, you are interested in my future and plan to flatter me. That's fine, I'll let him flatter me, but one thing must be said. I refuse any personal contact with him. All contacts must be in public places. If you agree to this, I will accept him as my godfather. Xiang Dalin said forcefully. Suen couldn't hold back her anger and said, Lin, you are not a newcomer to this industry. Why are you still so willful and disobedient? I remember I told you last time that you have to get ahead in this industry. Someone has to praise you, and now there are people who actively want to praise you, but you insist that you don't want it. I really don't understand what you are thinking. I think very simply, that is, there are some things that I can accept, but there are some things that I absolutely cannot accept. By the way, Sister Wen, didn't you just say that there are many people vying to be Mr. Lee's goddaughter? Then this give them the chance, Xiang Dalin said without flinching. Do you think the company is run by your family? Do you think Mr. Lee is your subordinate? That's what you say. Tell you, Zion Dalin, don't think that, because you have a little fame now, you can become a big name. You are nothing without the company. If you don't obey the company's arrangements this time, then you won't have any chance to appear in the future. After saying that, Su Wen turned around and left in anger. In fact, Zion Dalin also knew that it was impossible for the agency to offend a big sponsor for a small model like herself, unless she was now a cash cow for her company. But right now, she had nothing but an endorsement from a game company, and all the catwalk shows had to be done. Depending on the company's arrangements, if the company really puts you in cold storage, then your future will really be gone. Thinking of this, Zion Dalin suddenly discovered that she could actually ask the Indian Pandit, the boss of the game company, for help. His energy in the circle is much greater than that of the small company she currently works in. He can even run Miss World, can cultivate Miranda Kerr into the world's top supermodel in just 2 years. Then if he really wants to praise himself, there will definitely be no problem. The only question is that, if I do this, does it count as the little white rabbit cleaning herself and sending it to the big bad wolf's mouth? But then I thought about it. Let me say that he may not touch her, even if he really wants to do something to her. It is better to be with a handsome guy like him than with that perverted old man like Mr. Lee. Originally, Zion Dalin wanted to find Shakru that day, but he was not in Shanghai at the moment, so she had to go back alone in disappointment. In the following days, Zion Dalin found that the company seemed to really want to hide her and ban her. Not only did all the notices and performances disappear, but even her agent Su Wen rarely contacted her. After a few days, she finally waited for Shakru to come to Shanghai, so Zion Dalin rushed to the Legend company as soon as possible. Shakru was still a little surprised by Zion Dalin's arrival. Usually, this girl couldn't hide from him, as if she was afraid that he would eat her. Why didn't she take the initiative to come to him today? And it was said that she had been looking for him these days, as if there was something very important. However, Shakru didn't expect Zion Dalin's first sentence when she saw him was, "I want to join your company." Chapter 293 Job Change. You said you want to join my company? Shakru asked with some uncertainty. Zion Dalin nodded and said, "That's right. I don't want to stay in my current company anymore. I want to come to you." Shakru asked in confusion, "But what can you do here? This is a game company, not a model company. Do you just want to be a spokesperson? Then I can satisfy you." "Well, you misunderstood. I don't want to join your game company. I want to join your modeling agency," Zion Dalin explained. Shakru spread his hands. "But the problem is that I don't have a modeling agency." "How is this possible? Aren't Aishwarya and Miranda both artists under your banner? If there is no model agency, how do you manage them?" Zion Dalin asked in surprise. "It seems that I need to explain it to you. Let me talk about Aishwarya first. She is a contracted artist of my film company, but as a model, her agency is in another company, but I'm participating in her world competition. I helped her during the Miss contest. As for Miranda, although I helped her, it was always because of personal friendship, not affiliation. Apart from the two of them, I have no other modeling experience, so there is no need to open a modeling agency," Shakru explained slowly. "Oh, that's it. I'm sorry to bother you." Zion Dalin bowed with disappointment, then turned around and planned to leave. Seeing her lonely look, Shakru couldn't bear it, so he asked, "Well, Miss Zion, although I don't have a modeling agency, I still know some friends in this field, so if you need any help, please tell me about the place." Hearing what Shakru said, Zion Dalin told all her recent experiences. In fact, after just hearing the beginning, Shakru already understood what was going on, although he disdained to do such a thing. But what I saw and heard was real. It was too much. It was not until he finally listened patiently to Zion Dalin that he said, "Then, Miss Zion, how can you be sure that you will not encounter this kind of experience when you come to my company? To be honest, in daily contact, I think you are quite wary of me." Zion Dalin said with some embarrassment, "Aren't you misled by the rumors? In fact, after contacting you, I found that you are a boss with very good character, so I came to beg you this time." Shakru thought about it for a moment, and then said, Ms. Xiang, when you encountered something, you were the first to think of me for help. I'm grateful and touched for your trust. But the problem now is that I don't have a modeling agency myself. Of course, I can recommend you to other modeling agencies too. If I help you, wouldn't that mean I'm offending your original company and Mr. Lee? Do you think I'm doing this for you? Is it worth paying such a high price? Although these words were a bit cruel, Xiang Dailin had to admit that they made sense. Indeed, apart from work, she had almost no contact with Shakru, so why would she offend someone just because of a little model like herself? Moreover, he does not have a modeling agency of his own, so recommending himself to other companies will definitely cost favors, so there is no reason to do so, unless he is willing to make amends. Wait a minute, is this what it is? His purpose? Is he just waiting for his little white rabbit to come to his door? That's for sure. Hey, there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Forget it, forget it. I was already prepared before I came here. So Xiang Dailin gritted her teeth and said in a deep voice, Mr. Pandit, as long as you are willing to help me this time, I can promise to be your woman. Hearing what Xiang Dailin said, Shakru felt a little speechless. In this girl's mind, he was such a person who made trouble. So he shook his head and said, Miss Xiang, I think you misunderstood. I did not threaten you. I just want to tell you the cause and effect of this matter. Forget it, forget it. I agreed. Otherwise it will seem like I'm really a person who adds insult to injury. But I must make one thing clear. I can help you terminate your current contract and recommend you to a new modeling agency. But there will be no other preferential treatment. So please be mentally prepared. Which brokerage company are you going to recommend me to? Miranda established a modeling agency by herself last year. I should have no problem recommending you go there. After hearing this answer, Xiang Dailin was a little speechless. With the relationship between Shakru and Miranda, wouldn't the company opened by Miranda almost belong to him? Does this still need to be recommended? In fact, Xiang Dailin really misunderstood. Miranda's model agency really has nothing to do with Shakru. The initial investment was indeed made by Shakru, but he did not interfere at all in the subsequent operations. He didn't even ask for the shares, because he just wanted to use this company as an escape route for Miranda, and not let her fight with him in vain. However, looking at Xiang Dailin's expression, Shakru misunderstood and thought she was dissing Miranda's company for being too small, so he explained, Ms. Xiang, don't look at the fact that Miranda's company has just been established years ago, but now the scale is not small. It already has 20 or 30 full-time models and has cooperative relations with the 3 major fashion weeks. There are also a lot of performances and endorsements, so as long as you work hard, you will definitely have a bright future. No matter which country a model is from, there is no resistance to the 3 major fashion weeks, because this is the runway that truly leads to success. Although Xiang Dailin once won an award in a domestic model competition, she never dared to think about the 3 major fashion weeks. Now that she heard about this opportunity, she was naturally excited. She nodded repeatedly and said, Boss, don't worry, I will definitely work hard. In the days that followed, Shakru spent some money and effort to terminate Xiang Dailin's contract with the original agency, and then sent her to the modeling agency, run by Miranda in the United States, but asked him to withdraw from the contract. Unexpectedly, just as he recommended Xiang Dailin to Miranda Care, the other party said in his ear, My boss, this is your next target, right? PS. Well, in view of everyone's reaction, I will try not to let him appear again in subsequent episodes. Chapter 294 Moving. Shakru naturally had nothing to hide from Miranda, but he was still curious. Why could Miranda guess what he was thinking when he didn't say anything when they just met? After listening to his question, Miranda chuckled, pointed at Xiang Dailin who was filling out a form with her assistant and said, I don't need to look at anything else. I can tell just by looking at her long legs. When she was on the bed, you have said more than once that your favorite thing is my legs, and this girl's legs are not inferior to mine, so how could a pervert like you miss it? But to be honest, you have really good taste. It's rare for Eastern girls to be this tall and have such good body proportions. This girl was born to be a model. Okay, baby, I have to say, you really know me, but this situation is a bit special. Here's the thing. Shakru explained the matter with a wry smile. However, Miranda was obviously very dismissive of Shakru's explanation and whispered, "Oh my god, this girl is so naive. How can she survive in this circle with this mentality? But she is very lucky. I met a soft-hearted guy like you. Don't worry, I will train her well for you." Shakru originally wanted to defend himself, but then he thought that it seemed too pretentious, so he had to give up and went to Immersed to carry out another important event of his trip to the United States. Speaking of which, although Murphy was very reluctant to have Shakru buy most of the company's shares back then, he had to admit that Shakru was a rare good boss and good shareholder. After so many years of cooperation, he almost never had interfered in the running of the company, not to mention the situation in other companies, where they were dictating and appointing private individuals and laypersons to lead experts. Therefore, he never left, and he did everything he could when Shakru was in need. We are fully cooperating. But what he never expected was that Shakru would either not intervene or intervene in major matters, and his attitude was extremely tough. In fact, if his management was justified, everyone would listen to him. But the problem, it's really incomprehensible that he wanted to get involved because he wanted to move the entire company. Boss, I really can't understand why we have to move when we are fine. Murphy said helplessly. Shakru really has no explanation for this matter. Even if he said that the World Trade Center, where Immersed is located, will be in ruins in a few months, no one would believe it, because these are all high-level intellectuals. It was impossible to fool people by relying on the predictions of the elders of the Shaktism sect, but no matter what, he could not just watch his property being destroyed, so he could only hold on to his scalp and said, this World Trade Center is not safe enough, and it is prone to accidents. So I think it's better to change the office location. Murphy laughed dumbly and said, "Boss, even if you want us to move, you don't need to use this excuse, right? If the World Trade Center is not safe enough, are there any safe places in Manhattan or New York? You know the World Trade Center is a super tall building with an all-steel structure. Someone once detonated a loaded truck under the building, which only caused a few elevators to be out of service." Shakru really didn't expect that Murphy actually knew something about architecture and knew that the World Trade Center tower was an all-steel structure building. Speaking of which, if Shakru hadn't gone out of his way to learn about it in his previous life, he would have never known that the World Trade Center collapsed. The real reason. Everyone knows that the World Trade Center collapsed, but most people don't know how the building collapsed from top to bottom. The plane hit the building, hitting the upper half of the building. According to everyone's opinion, the upper half should collapse, and the lower half should be preserved. Of course, the damage will be serious, but it is really difficult for the entire building to collapse. There is a precedent for this. Not long ago, a truck loaded with explosives detonated under the World Trade Center, but it only caused some casualties and the outage of several elevators. That's all. This explains the problem very much. At the base of the building, a whole truckload of bombs could not destroy the building, and it did not even have any impact on the foundation. So, if the plane hit the upper half of the building, it could cause the entire building to collapse. This seems unscientific. However, it turns out that this is really scientific, because the entire World Trade Center is mainly composed of steel structure. This structure has strong load-bearing capacity, is extremely stable, and is deeply trusted by the public. It is precisely because of this stability that in the incident, after being hit by a plane, the entire World Trade Center shook more than 1 meter, but it did not collapse immediately. Many people fled at this time and thus escaped disaster, but at the same time, in the incident, precisely because the entire building was made of steel structure, after the impact of hundreds of tons of aircraft, the fuel ignited a raging fire. Under such a fire, although the steel structure was covered with fireproof materials, but how can a mere fireproof material block such a raging flame? The so-called preventive measures were all based on certain specifications. Even if some extreme situations were taken into account, they were not considered extreme at the time, but unbelievable. To put it bluntly, the Twin Towers in the United States collapsed because the steel structure had good heat resistance, but poor fire resistance. When a raging fire burned, the steel structure was softened and burned, and the upper floors collapsed. Tens of thousands of tons of building materials fell down. How could the lower floor not collapse? This is not comparable to the explosion of a truck in the underground garage, even if the truck is loaded with high explosives. This link was taken into consideration during the design of the entire building. The bottom floor is extremely solid, and even a bigger explosion cannot shake the foundation of the Twin Towers. The real collapse always starts from the top point. It is precisely because of this that the World Trade Twin Towers you see all collapsed vertically. This is not a directional explosion, but because the steel structure of the middle layer softens or even melts, causing the upper building to hit the lower building heavily. Yes, this is how the tragedy happened. Therefore, Shakru said helplessly, what if the danger comes from the sky? The sky? Do you mean that a meteorite rain will fall from the sky and collapse the World Trade Center? Murty said jokingly. Unexpectedly, Shakru really nodded. Well, yes, that's about what I mean. Chapter 295, A Bigger Circle. Finally, under Shakru's strong intervention, Murthy had no choice but to lead his men to move. Although he was very annoyed at this time, 3 months later, he was surprised to find that his boss was indeed foresight. Because on the morning of September 11th, 2 civilian airliners hijacked by terrorists crashed into Tower 1 and Tower 2 of the World Trade Center in New York, USA. The 2 buildings collapsed one after another after being attacked. The remaining 5 buildings of the World Trade Center were also affected by the earthquake and collapsed and were damaged. At about 9 o'clock, another hijacked passenger plane crashed into the Pentagon of the US Department of Defense in Washington, USA. Part of the Pentagon's structure was damaged and collapsed. The total number of victims was 2,996. There are different statistics on the property losses caused by this incident. The United Nations issued a report stating that the economic losses caused by this terrorist attack reached $200 billion, equivalent to 2% of the GDP of that year. The damage caused by this incident to the global economy even reached about $1 trillion. Murthy was shocked by the news and was speechless for a long time. It took him a long time before he said to his wife, "My dear, I think we should convert to Shaktism." At the same time, Miranda Kerr, who had just finished having sex with Shakru, also looked at the man in front of her who was sprinting hard on her with a shocked expression and said with some horror, "Oh my god, dear, are you really Superman? I thought you were joking when you said the World Trade Center would collapse today, but I didn't expect it to actually happen. This is really incredible." Shakru casually grabbed her plump breasts and then said with a smile, "When will what I said not be realized? And you should know best, whether I'm a Superman or not. Who was down there just now? Are you really begging for mercy?" Miranda thought for a long time, then leaned down, got into Shakru's arms, and murmured to herself, "Okay, I have decided. I will follow you for the rest of my life, even if there is no status." Hearing the benevolent but affectionate words of the beauty in his arms, Shakru was naturally moved and wanted to make up for it. But just when the passion between the two was burning, Miranda's phone call came to his mind at an inappropriate time. So she quickly said, "Honey, wait a minute. Okay, let me answer the phone first." Shakru said unhappily, "Whose call is so important that you have to answer it now?" As he said that, he pushed it forward hard. Miranda couldn't even hold the phone, but she still tried her best. Struggle explained, "This is a call from one of my sisters. I have to answer it. Then you pick up yours, and I ****. We won't delay." Shakru said in a wicked way. In desperation, Miranda had no choice but to endure the impact of Shakru behind her while putting the phone to her ear. As soon as the call was connected, a sexy female voice came from the other side. "Miranda, what are you doing? Why did you answer the phone?" Miranda suppressed the surging pleasure in her body and said with great difficulty, "Sister Nicole, what's the matter with you?" Miranda, "It's really amazing. You told me 2 days ago that the World Trade Center building would collapse today. I thought you were joking, but I didn't expect it to actually happen. Could it be that your boss really knows prophecy?" As soon as this topic came up, Sister Nicole suddenly became excited, and she didn't pay attention to Miranda's strange tone when she spoke. "Of Course, I told you a long time ago that my boss is not an ordinary person, but you just don't believe it. This time I believe it. This time I really believe it. By the way, can you find an opportunity for me to get to know your boss? Then, let me ask him. With that, Miranda asked Shakru behind her, "Boss, my sister Nicole Kidman wants to invite us to have a meal. When are you free, Nicole Kidman?" Shakru was a little surprised when he heard the name. He was naturally familiar with Tom Cruise's ex-wife, but how could she be so familiar with Miranda? There shouldn't be any overlap between the two people's work, but after thinking about it, it was right. They are both Australians who have developed in the American entertainment industry. It is normal for them to have a common language, so they nodded and agreed. Then tonight, Miranda had just told Kidman about the meeting tonight, and the other end asked in surprise, your boss is with you now?" Miranda bit her lip and said with difficulty, "To be precise, he is not beside me, but behind me." At this time, Nicole Kidman generally reacted, so she chuckled and said, "Then I won't disturb you, just enjoy it, Miranda." After hanging up the phone, Miranda, who had been suffering for a long time, finally moaned loudly and breathed loudly, and even actively launched a counterattack against Shakru, emitting 1,000 words here. After the clouds cleared, Miranda suddenly bit Shakru's chest hard and asked, "Tell me, did you have any bad ideas for Sister Nicole?" Shakru said aggrievedly, "No way, I have never seen her in real life except in movies." "Okay. Otherwise, she would still need you as a recommendation." Miranda snorted coldly and said, "Huh, that means you had bad thoughts about her while watching the movie. Otherwise, why did your bad thoughts become so big when you mentioned her name just now?" This time Shaka couldn't explain it. This purely subconscious, physiological reaction couldn't be denied. In fact, he did have a very good impression of Nicole Kidman, even though she seemed to be 1 year older than him. Seeing Shaka like this, Miranda bit him again in hatred, but what she said afterwards really surprised Shaka. She said, "Anyway, she is about to get divorced. If you want to pursue her, I don't object. It's just right that someone can help me in bed in the future. Your little girl named Xiang hasn't turned around yet, and now is not the time to push her." Looking at Shaka's shocked expression, Miranda shook her head and sighed. "If it were another woman, I would definitely not help you so actively, but Sister Nicole is definitely an exception. Speaking of which, she has been living a very hard life these years." "She's living a hard life? How is that possible? She and Tom Cruise are a model couple in Hollywood." Shaka asked puzzledly. Miranda smiled bitterly and said, "How can there be a model couple in a place like Hollywood? They are just acting." Then, Miranda told Shaka a piece of news that shocked him. Chapter 296 Box Office Poison. "What? You said Cruise likes men?" Shakru asked in shock. Miranda nodded and said, "Yes, otherwise why wouldn't they have a baby after being married for so many years?" "Well, I always thought there was something wrong with either of them." Shakru replied hesitantly, "If I tell you that Cruise has never touched Sister Nicole, would you believe it? If this is true, then Nicole Kidman is so pitiful, but why didn't she get divorced when she just found out?" Shakru asked in confusion. Miranda sighed, "Isn't this just to take advantage of Cruise's fame?" At that time, Sister Nicole thought it was a good thing to be famous without having to pay for her body. But now it seems that a woman can't. It's such a boring life to be nourished by men. "Then let me moisturize you again." Shakru chuckled and then pressed forward. Although Shakru had seen Nicole Kidman in movies and entertainment news, he was still involuntarily shocked when he saw her in real life because Nicole was so tall. Shakru believes that her actual height is definitely more than 180 centimeters, and maybe she reported her height lower. Thinking of this, he found it very interesting. Stars in general, especially female stars, reported their heights to be taller, but there were also some female stars who reported their heights to be lower. It was said that Gigi Lung had just debuted and auditioned for Andy Lau's Chariots of Fire. When I was taking a photo with Andy Lau, I deliberately bent my legs because I was afraid that I would be too tall and not match Andy Lau. This is especially true for Nicole Kidman. When the two of them stand together, it is obvious that Tom is shorter, so it is possible that Nicole reported a lower height point. Just when Shakru was thinking wildly, Nicole Kidman took the initiative to say hello. "Are you Mr. Pandit? Miranda has told me about it many times. It's an honor to meet you today. I'm also very happy to meet you. I really like the movie you starred in." But as soon as he finished saying this, Shakru regretted it because he realized that this movie was a movie about NI, but Kidman collaborated with Tom Cruise, and the two watched I'm About to Get Divorced, so it seems a bit inappropriate to say this now. But then again, I haven't watched many Nicole Kidman movies, Shakru, and the one that impressed me the most has not yet been released. Now all he has seen is this eye-opener. Maybe this sentence touched Nicole's sadness. She smiled bitterly and said, "Hey, it seems that I'm really not suitable for making movies." From 1985 to now, the movie that everyone remembers is not Thunderbolt. It was an eye-opener. Shakru still agrees with Nicole's self-deprecation because she is famous for being a box office poison. For example, The Golden Compass cost $1.8 billion US, but the box office was only 70 million. The Fairy Wife has been on the air for decades, but the movie version she starred in still didn't recoup its cost. If it was a coincidence once or twice, but it happened almost every time, then there must be a reason for her. But Shakru certainly couldn't say this at this time, so he could only comfort him. "I think there may be something wrong with the film and role you chose. The film is not popular and the character has no personality, so no matter how hard you work, it will be difficult to come out good results." This is not that Shakru is talking nonsense. Nicole Kidman's problem does lie in her role positioning. Because she is Tom's wife, her starting point is too high. She does not accept small-scale films, role-playing roles, or roles that damage her image. As a result, her acting career is too narrow, so it is difficult for her to become popular. "So, what kind of role do you think is suitable for me?" Nicole Kidman asked. Shakru thought for a long time, and then said, "I think maybe a musical would be better." This was not without purpose. In his impression, Nicole Kidman seemed to have won the prize thanks to the famous musical Moulin Rouge. It was nominated for several awards, but he hasn't seen this drama, so he can't be sure. In fact, what he wants to talk about more is Kojima. In his memory, this is the movie that Nicole Kidman left the deepest impression on him. The unique narrative perspective of this movie and the big twist in the last minute of the movie, which made Shakru, who was still young at the time, deeply understand what it means that you won't understand what the film is about until you watch the last minute. I recommend friends who haven't seen it to watch it. Kojima is definitely a suspense movie or a masterpiece among high IQ brain-burning movies, and Nicole Kidman's performance in it is also a remarkable point. However, Nicole Kidman was very excited about this answer. "Really? I just finished filming a musical called Moulin Rouge, and I felt very comfortable filming it. I hope I can lend you some good advice and this film will be able to big sale. In fact, musicals are more suitable for winning awards, but less good at the box office. After all, this is the United States, not our India." Shakru laughed at himself. "Speaking of which, I'm really surprised. It seems that, no matter what the subject matter is, your local Indian movies always include a lot of singing and dancing performances." Shakru has explained this issue many times, so he said with ease, "This has geographical reasons. For many Indian audiences, especially those who watch outdoor movies, watching movies is an alternative gathering place. Everyone was very happy singing and dancing along with the songs and dances in the film, but the plot of the film is not very important." Nicole Kidman suddenly realized, "But your film company doesn't seem to shoot this style of film." Shakru nodded and said, "Because my target market is not in India, so naturally I won't shoot it this way." The dinner ended quickly in this relaxed and natural state, but on the way back, Miranda asked Shakru very strangely, "Dear, I'm really surprised today. I thought you would take advantage of today to chat with Sister Nicole, and I was even ready to help you, but you didn't say a word tonight. Don't you like Sister Nicole?" "How can I not like a beautiful woman like Nicole? But today's occasion is not suitable, and she is not divorced yet. If those gossip media take some inappropriate photos, it will cause trouble for her. It's better to wait until she is single." Shakru explained while driving. To be continued. Chapter 297 Family Portrait. Miranda thought about it carefully and found that, although Shakru had many women, he had never had any experience of fooling around with married women. This was probably one of his advantages, so she said happily, "Then I will concentrate all my efforts on helping you to conquer Xian Dalin recently." But unfortunately, Shakru did not give him this opportunity because he left New York very soon and came to Harbin. This was because he was not very confident about the response of Harbin's second branch in the face of increased orders, so he planned to come and see it in person. As for Changchen's first branch, he was more relieved. Although Luhan was a little greedy, it was still within his tolerance range, and the first branch had gone through several tests, so there should be no major problems. But what surprised Shakru was that the production of the second branch was not a problem. Instead, his backer, Merkin in Harbin, gave him a problem. Merkin hoped that he could invest in an enterprise under the Municipal Grain Bureau or lend the other party a sum of money to solve the other party's current difficulties. If it was just a few million, Shakru would have agreed without hesitation, but the funds required this time were as high as hundreds of millions. Of course, if it was just a few million, it would not be worth it for the mayor to ask for it. So Shakru arranged for Suze, the acting director of the second branch, to investigate, but the results of the investigation made him frown even more. The development of this chain restaurant called Quanjiafu is very Chinese, or more accurately, it is very characteristic of the development of Chinese state-owned enterprises during this period. The predecessor of Quanjiafu was a service company under the Municipal Grain Bureau. Under the tide of state-owned enterprise reform, the service company naturally faced the fate of reorganization. Feng Song, who was in charge of the service company at that time, was a very courageous person. When the service company started, Feng had the courage to find Merkin, the deputy mayor in charge of the grain bureau. Merkin appreciated his courage and made an exception to allocate 300,000 yuan for him to run the business. Feng Song also issued a brutal administrative order that each employee should hand in 10,000 yuan of fundraising funds or pack up and leave. At that time, the old director of the grain bureau was about to retire. Others were busy striving for promotion and waiting and watching. Feng Song had 300,000 yuan given by Merkin, so no one bothered him for a while. Anyway, the service company had 11 people at most, so the impact was not too big. In the end, he actually raised 500,000 yuan. Someone paid 20,000 yuan, but Feng Song borrowed 75,000 yuan by selling everything he had. It was this 500,000 yuan that supported the first store of Quanjiafu. Due to the appropriate positioning and delicious taste, Quanjiafu recovered its investment in just half a year. When the dividends were distributed at the end of the year, everyone was smiling. Someone proposed to increase the equity, but Feng Song refused. After the spring festival of the second year, when General Manager Feng visited Merkin again, Merkin had been promoted to executive vice mayor. Hearing that this courageous young man had made a name for himself, the newly promoted vice mayor felt that he should do something to show everyone his skills, and agreed to Feng Song's loan plan without hesitation. However, Merkin would definitely not allow Feng Song to open only 2 chains. If you want to open, you must have at least 5. Xiao Feng, you must have lofty ambitions. Time is money, and efficiency is life. You are so slow, too conservative. At this point, Quanjiafu has entered the fast lane of development. In the end, the speed of personnel training could not keep up with the speed of opening stores. Merkin was very happy to see such a sudden rise of such an enterprise in the city. Not only did he specially call the bank to ask them to simplify the loan process of Quanjiafu, but he also personally asked about the expansion speed of Quanjiafu. Last year, the expansion target of Quanjiafu was 20 stores. Merkin wrote, "Seize the day, at least 1 Quanjiafu in each provincial capital city, with a base of 30 stores, and strive for 50 stores." In theory, although this goal is a bit big, it doesn't matter if authorized franchise chains are allowed. However, Merkin believes that the Quanjiafu brand belongs to the Municipal Grain Bureau and the municipal government. How can private individuals use national resources for profit? Therefore, Feng Song could only take out a loan to do this. Although the base was met last year, only 35 new stores were opened. There was no other way. The money could not keep up. Although the income of Kwangjiafu was 220 million last year, the cost of opening stores in other places is really not low. Coupled with the burden of systematic management, the net profit is about 50 million. Excluding the 30% management fee paid to the bureau, the cost of handling the city, and the dividends of several people in the family, there is not much money left. It can't even pay back half of the bank loan. To be honest, the pace of Kwangjiafu's expansion is too fast. The supply channels can't keep up, and the relevant management is also a mess. Otherwise, the net profit last year would have reached 80 million. This is the inevitable pain of rapid growth. At the beginning of this year, when Merkin was discussing with entrepreneurs, he specifically mentioned Feng Song. Xiaofeng, your steps for family portrait are not big enough. This year I will give you more responsibility. Is it a problem to open 100 stores? Merkin has spoken, so there is no problem. Unfortunately, there is a problem with the bank. To be honest, family portrait is really a good loan target. The city strongly supports it, and the funds are recovered quickly. However, people in the banking industry are also dissatisfied with Feng Song. That is, Mr. Feng is too arrogant. It is true that you have a good relationship with the mayor, but since you are borrowing my money to do business, you should always fulfill the proper etiquette, right? The people in the bank didn't really want Feng Song to give them some ice or charcoal, or some courtesy during festivals. Isn't life all about comfort? You haven't been too rude on weekdays, but it's always bad to ignore people, right? You assigned a public relations manager to send a card of 100 or 200 yuan with a blank expression during the New Year holidays. Who are you trying to please? If you really want that, you can just treat me to 2 skewers of lamb on the street. Everyone wants equal communication. This society is a society of favors. In the second half of last year, the support of the bank for the whole family was reduced. The whole family is not like real estate projects. The cost recovery is fast and does not bring the huge pressure to the bank. The expansion of the whole family cannot be separated from the support of the bank. In this case, Feng Song would ignore the relationship with the bank. Isn't it because his own financial situation is good? But the bank also knows that with this kind of huge profit, once the whole family expands, it will become difficult to make a profit. How can the consumption of small cities compare with that of big cities? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Tiger Garden. The catering industry has always been an industry that is easily copied. Last year, your family portrait number 10 store sold 4 million. This year, the competition is fierce, so you may not be able to sell 2 million. Last year, the cost was 2 million. This year, the cost is, or maybe even 1.5 million won't come down. Moreover, once everyone understands the fresh taste and business methods, don't worry that no one will learn from you. What's more, people nowadays are no longer as obsessive about time-honored brands as they were 20 years ago. I'm used to liking the new and hating the old. What's more, Family Port is far from being considered a time-honored brand. It is almost the same as its rival. For a newly emerged catering brand, it is very difficult not to feel bored after everyone is familiar with it. The brand consolidation is far from easy. It's not as easy as imagined. As the old saying goes, it's easy to conquer a country, but it's difficult to sit on it. Even if we add new stores, the market may not be able to expand much. Even if it expands, operating costs will increase a lot. However, if the original market cannot shrink, it is considered good. This is the banking industry's assessment of family portrait. Of course, this is the most pertinent assessment. There are also those who make extremely unflattering remarks and those who spend a lot of money, which inevitably contains more or less private goods. Strictly speaking, this evaluation is neither good nor bad. The development of a brand will always go through ups and downs. There will be emergencies and slowdowns, and there will be ups and downs. As long as the general direction is good, it is still worthy of support. However, the pace of family portrait this year is a bit too big. 100 stores have to unify the decoration and logistics. On average, one store needs 100 million to digest it. This step is too big. And what's even worse is that money is tight this year. Really tight. Point thinking about that assessment. Everyone knew that the market prospects may not be very good. Some people wanted to persuade Feng Song that there is no need to make it so big, but Boss Feng said it back firmly. This is Mayor Qin. The task assigned to me. If you can persuade Mayor Qin to allocate less money, it doesn't matter. Do you think I don't mind the heavy task? Only then did everyone remember that this Feng Song had never been very fond of banks, and the resentment in their hearts became even greater. However, Mayor Qin was so powerful, no one dared to impose a hard cap, saying that they should not delay starting the loan point. But Feng Song is a man of action. Seeing that the bank was not getting enough money in order to avoid failing to complete the administrative tasks, he also found a way to borrow a lot of funds. Now he is reluctantly engaged in more than 40 decoration and leasing matters. However, as a result, money is a bit tight. What's more terrible is that the turnover of chain stores has declined in varying degrees in the past. After the novelty has passed, coupled with the opening of similar restaurants, it is normal for the turnover to decline. It has just entered a stable period. If we can keep our composure and manage carefully and persist for 30 to 50 years, we will not be unable to build a well-known brand point. But Feng Song couldn't hold back his anger and started going to the bank every day. But how could the grievances accumulated over the past few years be resolved in a day or two? When the relationship between everyone eased, they discovered that the family portrait was missing the bank, and they were afraid that they would not be able to have fun anymore. Of course, in addition to banks, it is not impossible to borrow money from finance, but it is very regrettable that at this time, the city's finance is out of money. It is really out of money. The main reason is the reconstruction work after the flood. Point in addition, this project has a tendency to become useless, and Feng Song is a bit arrogant in his daily work. Naturally, everyone is unwilling to lend money to other countries, but is urging them to repay the loan. At this time, Feng Song couldn't be more miserable. There were more than 40 o'clock outside waiting for the rice to be cooked, and he had already borrowed almost all the money he could borrow. His last choice was to raise funds internally. The 11 employees who started the business with him have enjoyed generous dividends in 3 years. Each of them has 3 to 5 million yuan. However, everyone has seen the prospect of family portrait. At present, someone thinking that Mr. Feng would just give up on everyone and be willing to give some appropriate support. Most people just thought it was no good and just walked away. However, there is no need to think about expecting everyone to sell iron and scrape together money. The great development of family portrait has given Feng Song a dazzling aura. The group of old officials who started his business also feel that Mr. Feng's temper became increasingly fierce, and he became increasingly arbitrary and domineering. With the feeling of alienation, it is difficult to work together, not to mention that everyone is now rich. It is easier to unite and win when you are barefoot. After putting on shoes, everyone is more willing to sit with the son of a rich man. No more sitting in the hall. Therefore, Mr. Feng, who really had no choice but to ask for help, turned to Mayor Qin. Mayor Qin didn't want to smash the sign he held, so he looked for people everywhere to help. Shakru was one of them, but after a detailed understanding, after learning about the situation of the family portrait, Shakru refused to waste his money on it, but Mayor Qin didn't want to give it up at all. After thinking about it, Shakru finally thought of an alternative solution, so he took the initiative to find Mayor Qin. Mayor Qin, although I have a hotel under my banner, it is not purely in the catering industry. Especially since it has nothing to do with the fast food industry. I don't plan to invest in the family portrait project. Seeing Mayor Qin's face gradually sinking, Shakru said quickly, but I'm very interested in another state-owned enterprise in your city, and I plan to buy shares or invest in it, but my business method is a bit different. I don't know if Mayor Qin can accept it. To be honest, Mayor Qin was very upset when he heard Shakru refuse to help the family portrait. At his position, few people dared to refuse him directly. However, even if he was unhappy with Shakru, he had no choice. He was not his subordinate, and he didn't ask him for help. On the contrary, he needed him to support part of his political achievements. If he only cared about venting his anger and angered him, the situation in Changchun would be a lesson for him. China is so big Can't they invest in other places? In the current situation, how can such a big investor not be welcomed? Fortunately, this Indian was quite tactful and gave himself a step down. So Merkin asked, I wonder which state-owned enterprise Mr. Pandit is interested in. Siberian Tiger Park. Shakru answered word by word. What? Siberian Tiger Park? Mr. Pandit, do you like tigers very much? Merkin asked in extreme surprise, because no matter how he thought beforehand, he would never guess that Shakru would choose to invest in such a project. Chapter 299 Live Sheep. The Siberian Tiger Park in Harbin is a comprehensive enterprise integrating conservation, scientific research, and tourism. It is a unique tourist attraction in Harbin and the largest base for artificially raising and breeding Siberian tigers in the world. Such a place is naturally a state-owned enterprise, but Merkin felt that, even if he tried hard, he couldn't think of any investment prospects here. The only thing he could think of was that this Indian likes tigers very much. Shakru shook his head and said, I don't like tigers very much, but I think there is a business opportunity in the tiger park in Harbin. If you seize it, you can not only make some money, but also help Harbin's tourism industry. Since Merkin visited Huan for inspection some time ago, he still has a little understanding of Huan's current operating situation. The current operating situation of Huan is very bad. Originally, the Siberian Tiger Forest Park was a unit focused on conservation and scientific research. It only launched tourism projects in order to maintain a balance of revenue and expenditure. However, after 2 years of actual operation, the effect was not very good. The tourism industry in the northeast, especially in Harbin, showed obvious seasonal differences around 2000. In winter, especially during the period when the ice and snow world was open, the tourism industry in Harbin was very prosperous, and there were not enough tour guides at all, even at school. College students majoring in tourism management can work as tour guides, but in the summer, there are very few tourists coming to Harbin. Dragon Tower and Oktoberfest did not exist at that time, and even if tourists come, not many people go to the Tiger Park. Even if they go there once, they don't want to go there a second time, because tigers are just for seeing something new. So the benefits of the Tiger Park are not much. Kin City, I really can't think of anything that can make money here. Seeing Merkin's confused look, Shaklu explained, I have a general understanding of the situation in Huan. The reason why the income is not high now is that there is something wrong with the business philosophy. If it were me running it, if it does, it will definitely attract a large number of wealthy and leisure tourists to come here specifically to visit, and it will also stimulate surrounding hotels, restaurants and other tourism industries. Pandit, what problems do you think there are in the current business philosophy? Merkin asked with interest. First of all, we need to study the psychology of customers. What people who have both money and leisure lack most is stimulation, because their daily lives are really boring, and Huan is a place that can provide them with stimulation. Huan, what is the most popular thing in the place is, of course, the tiger. And what does the tiger represent? It represents ferocity, violence, and cruelty. As long as these places are shown, these tourists will naturally be attracted. Based on this idea, I think the current setting of the Tiger Park is very unreasonable. It is not a place prepared for tourists at all, but a scientific research unit for studying tigers. Of course, this is indeed a scientific research unit for studying tigers. However, since you want to develop tourism, you must make changes for tourists. Scientific research can be done in the background, in places where tourists cannot see. What is placed in front of tourists should be what they want to see. Shakru said eloquently. Following Shakru's train of thought, Merkin thought about it and found that the current Tiger Park was indeed like this. It was more like a scientific research unit than a tourist attraction, not even a zoo. What was inside the Tiger Park? Tiger Breeding Park and Cub Tiger Park may sound very professional, but they look really boring. After all, everyone is not a biological expert, and they don't understand the value of science and technology, so naturally they don't want to come. But from what the Indian just said, it seems that his method of change is a bit outrageous. So Merkin continued to ask, then what changes are you planning to make, Mr. Pandit? First of all, we need to change the current way of sightseeing. We can no longer watch through cages. How is that different from a zoo? and the distance is too far and tourists can't see clearly, so this must be changed so that tourists can see it at close range. To see tigers, the specific method is to modify and reinforce some special vehicles so that tourists can directly enter the tiger's living area. Before Shakru finished speaking, Merkin interrupted, "This won't work. It's too dangerous. What if a tourist is injured by a tiger? That's why special vehicles are needed. In fact, it's not that dangerous. As long as you choose a stronger bus and reinforce the iron bars on the windows, there will be no problem. And there must be keepers and security guards on the bus. They are accustomed to tigers. We all know enough about it, and there will definitely be no danger. In fact, I think the biggest danger is not with tigers, but with people. There are more iron fences and stuff. The function is to prevent curious tourists from leaning out of the car window or getting out of the car privately, which is where things are most likely to happen." Shakru definitely said this because he remembered something like this happening in his previous life. First of all, the scenic spot has clearly stated that this is the tiger's living area, but there are still people who are not afraid of death and do not believe in evil and run out privately. As a result, if something goes wrong, they still have to rely on the scenic spot. Can there be such a person who is not afraid of death? Merkin asked puzzledly. Shakru replied calmly, "There are no people in this world." Then he changed the topic and said, "Just like this, it only attracts ordinary tourists, and the money earned is only the ticket price, and the ticket is expensive at most. A little. So we need to set up a consumption project exclusively for those high-end customers, but this project may be a bit different, and it will be difficult for you, like Merkin, to accept it. Isn't it about some illegal operation?" Merkin looked at Shakru and asked. Shakru shook his head and said, "How could it be illegal? Forget it. I'll tell you in detail. In fact, this project is very simple, which is to highlight the ferocity of tigers. That is, tourists can buy live chickens and sheep in the scenic area, and then throw the live sheep to the tiger under the guidance of the staff. In this way, you can see a group of tigers killing and biting live sheep. This experience is quite exciting. Will someone pay to see this kind of thing? How scary?" Merkin asked in disbelief. Shakru nodded and replied, "It can be, because it is scary and terrifying, so it is exciting, and makes those bored people feel excited, so they will come and spend money here." Chapter 300, 10 years. Merkin thought carefully for a long time, then shook his head and refused. "This won't work. This will definitely not work. If it were in India or the United States, then I guess it should be fine, but in China, especially in the Northeast, the thinking is still relatively weak. Be conservative. If you do this, it will definitely cause a strong reaction. At least you can't do this in state-owned enterprises. Private enterprises are fine." Shakru had no idea about Merkin's rejection. Originally, this proposal was just a temporary way to maintain a balance of income and expenditure in order to take care of his relationship with Merkin. In other times, this kind of proposal would have been impossible. Shakru is not willing to earn a small amount of money, but Merkin has a point of view that Shakru does not agree with. That is, this kind of project is not feasible in India because the vast majority of Indians are believers, at least on the surface, so such cruel and exciting projects cannot be carried out in India at all. Those Indians, even if rich people want to play, they secretly go abroad to play and won't go through such trouble at home. Originally, Shakru wanted to stay in the second branch for a while, but something happened in New Delhi that had something to do with him and made him very angry, so he immediately flew back to New Delhi. At first glance, the cause of the incident seems to be something that happens often in India, which is a rape case. However, the perpetrators and victims of this case are very unusual. First of all, the perpetrator and the victim knew each other in a very special way. The perpetrator raped the victim 10 years ago, but at that time, there were not only these two people, but 6 people who committed the crime. However, the other 4 murderers were sentenced to death 10 years ago, and 1 committed suicide in custody. The murderer was sent to the juvenile court because of his young age and was only sentenced to 10 years in prison. 10 years later, although the murderer was released after serving his sentence, the resentment in his heart did not disappear. So he once again found an opportunity to rape the poor girl. The reason why this matter has something to do with Shakru is because this poor girl is the female college student named Pandi Badri who was rescued by Shakru 10 years ago. This poor girl suffered great trauma back then. Over the years, she finally got married and had children, and she finally got out of the shadow of the past. However, she never expected that she would suffer bad luck again 10 years later, and the perpetrator was still the same person. So her whole spirit is now almost broken. For Shakru, 10 years ago he had just crossed over, and he was not particularly familiar with the whole of India. But now 10 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and he has changed from a 20-year-old boy to what he is now. The three men who only care about making money are now making more and more money and having more and more industries, but it seems that they are far away from their original intention when they just traveled through time. It's getting further and further away. Now think back how depressed I was when I first wore this body. I almost married a dark and thick wife just to pay off my debts. At that time, my only thought was to make more money, enjoying life leisurely, and now I have enough money, but it seems that I have not enjoyed the leisurely life for a few days. It seems that my thinking in the future should change. Although the police did not find Shakru in this matter, of course, there was no need to find him. After all, he was just a witness from 10 years ago. Shakru still went to visit the victim Pandi. Mr. Badri, the father, still remembered the savior of his daughter, so when he saw him, he stepped forward and thanked him. "Hello, Mr. Pandit, thank you for remembering poor Pandi. Hey, I flew back from abroad as soon as I heard about this. This murderer is so hateful. After all these years, Pandi still hasn't been let go. He shouldn't have been sent to the juvenile court back then. Otherwise today's tragedy would not have happened. I think the bill on the protection of teenagers should have been changed long ago. This is no longer protecting teenagers but shielding them." Shakru's words are not without purpose. Similar situations have occurred in many countries. Today's children are different from those born in the 70s and 80s. With the help of various media, they have been exposed to many things that should not be exposed at this age very early. In addition, the Overprotection of the Youth Act has caused these young criminals to act unscrupulously, thinking that they will not die, even if they break the law, because they are young. Some people even hire these little guys to commit crimes. Badri echoed. That's true. If this guy had been sentenced to death back then, our poor Pandi wouldn't be what he is now. Looking at Pandi, who was now empty-eyed and numb, Shakru suddenly thought of a question. "By the way, Mr. Badri, has Pandi always been like this, since he was killed?" Badri nodded and replied, "Yes, it has always been like this. The doctor said that she was too stimulated and it will be difficult to recover." "Then, how did she identify Terrao as the murderer?" Shakru asked curiously. Badri sighed and explained, "Hey, whenever a stranger approaches her now, she will shout not to touch me and then say what it was like 10 years ago and what it is like now. So we took out the photo of the murderer. I showed it to her, and it turned out that Terrao's photo stimulated her the most, and she even fainted at one point." Obviously, Badri was not willing to go into details, so Shakru changed the subject and asked, "Has this Terrao been caught?" "Not yet. This guy is too cunning. The police searched all his relatives and friends, but they couldn't find any trace of him." "Oh, these policemen are so useless," Badri said bitterly. "It's okay. I'll find a way to deal with this matter." Shakru comforted. "P.S. Because I'm getting married the day after tomorrow, I have a lot of things to do tomorrow. I'm sorry that I can only stop updating for one day. However, the day after tomorrow is a double happy day for this book. The protagonist and the author are getting married on the same day. I hope to receive everyone's blessings." In addition, the protagonist and Amisa were married in 1999. In fact, it should have been written a long time ago, but it was delayed until now, because I was waiting for my day. Therefore, it will definitely not be connected to the recent plot if it is posted now. Please forgive me for this. Just treat it as a side story. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.